We're broadcasting. We should be live any second. Let's see here. All right. Let me double check here. Is that right? That's right. Yes, there is a live feed going on the Awesome Talk Facebook page right now. Hold on. Where is it? Where is it?
Man, it's just almost like being in a real life show.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't?
We're there. Yep. We are here. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to Awesome Talk, the Quarantine Edition number 8 on April 24th, 2020. We got... Yeah.
I know, right? We're really up on our shit.
What's up, everybody out there? Donna's in the chat. Kristen's in the chat. Damien's in the chat. What's going on? Damien, you're first. I see you there, buddy. So tonight we have a very interesting show. Sarah, you do the introductions. Listen, the stress that I just went through trying to get this fucking Skype to work. I need your backup.
All right, let me tell you.
Shut the fuck up, Stones.
You know what? That if this was a new segment, that would have been called Stones on Your Side.
Yeah.
And Stones would have jumped out of the shadows and he'd been like,
You know, Rick, let me explain to you how rubber gloves work.
Am I low for everybody, or is it just... Oh, okay, so they said that they can't hear me. Not my fault. I'm not muted.
No, we're on. We're live.
Well, everyone says they can't hear me.
They can't hear you specifically?
Sarah and guess the volume. So
Oh,
everybody but you.
Well, that means your volume's low. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just accepting.
The entire chat says they can only hear you.
I don't know what to tell you. It's Skype. You guys are coming in on Skype. Whatever Skype's pushing out is what's there.
Well, this is not a me problem. Whatever. Anyway.
Hold on.
Alright. We'll figure this mystery out. Can't hear anyone. Nobody can hear anyone. Everybody's complaining. Only Rick. Alright, well, he's figuring it out.
Why though?
Why? Sorry, guys. We'll figure this shit out sooner or later. You got 50% of the...
How about now?
Yeah, can everybody hear now? Let us know.
That should work now.
I think it's funny that my brother is in the chat and he's basically like, yeah, Rick, we can hear you loud and clear. And it's like, yeah, I know, that wasn't the problem.
Boom, it's there.
Great,
What's up,
boom.
Scott?
He got boomed. We're good.
We're boom.
Nice. Yeah, so anyway, so I know that I mentioned on the show before in past episodes, because this is all we talk about now, that, you know, I had a family member dealing with this, and it's not the fucking flu, and how fucking infuriating it is when we hear people say that. But my sister had been dealing with this, is still dealing with this, has been dealing with this for almost a month now. It's a monster, but she's getting better finally, luckily, and she is with us tonight. She's been on the show before, so you probably recognize her. But yeah, she came to answer some questions and talk about all this crazy shit with us. All this crazy shit.
I'm ecstatic about hearing this.
And by the way, her name is Alexis. Because I realized that I just called her my sister, but, you know, not everyone's going to be like, your sister, you know, she has a
That's
name.
my name. I changed it to my sister.
She changed it to Anonymous. Anonymous lady.
Yeah.
And also there is Michael John Stone.
Who?
Yeah, now you're talking. See, that was another Stones on my side. Stones is here. Matt Clahosi is out from behind cameraman duties because there's no camera to man.
Hey.
So
Hi,
Scott
everyone.
in the chat said, hi, Sarah's sister. And Matt Hill might be here later. Rob Marcy might be here later on. He's having a lot of, you know, there was a death in his family. He's dealing with a lot of illness in his family right now, so he may or may not be here because shit is rough at the moment. So, hi everybody. Welcome to Awesome Talk. There are 22 people in the regular chat right now, and I have no idea how many watch parties exist. Rick,
Yeah.
are you in this, or are you just going to bed?
I'm here. I'm in this. I'm not in bed. I'm sorry. I'm just getting the show spread out there to get as many viewers as humanly possible. That's all.
He's spreading the show like Corona.
If anybody in the chat has any questions, by the way, Alexis, if you want to just talk about your experience, talk about what went on with you and stuff, so that way people if they have any questions, you know, based on what you went through, they can ask away.
So everything started back with me mid-March when things started to get a little bit more serious. Even before that time frame, I actually, as a family with my kids, I have teenagers, we went on quarantine, lockdown. I wasn't letting nobody in. Nobody was leaving. We were sanitizing things. We were pretty much taking care of, everything. And after I'd done that, I actually even had my one son who worked at a grocery store. We had him quit because we started getting nervous because it then hit New Jersey. It was primarily up North Jersey at that time. So we were just, trying to be cautious about everything. And a few days later, my husband then wasn't feeling so well. And then the next day, what kind of feels familiar like a flu, all of a sudden in the middle of the day, I kind of had aches and pains. And just like the flu, hour by hour, the aches and pains got more and more severe, to the point that evening, I had never been in so much pain in my life. Every bone, everything just hurt so badly. I wasn't nervous yet then because we're like, nah, it can't be, maybe it is just the flu or, whatever. And then the next day I started having some chills and took my temperature and had a fever and pretty much started crying at that point, because then I got nervous because at the time, all they kept on prefacing is, if you have a fever, if you have a cough. And so after getting the fever, I started getting, a little bit more nervous. A couple of days later then, before they announced it as a symptom, I then lost my sense of smell completely, and my sense of taste. And I never said anything to my husband because I just thought it was weird. I was so concerned about the other symptoms. And they weren't saying that was a symptom for COVID. So I didn't really think much of it. And then it was about 2 days later, I saw on the news, there's a possible new symptom for COVID. People are reporting they're losing their sense of smell and taste. And it was after that shit got real fast, and started getting really, really nervous. I would get fevers at night, and we then, by the weekend, both of us not feeling good, sat there. We were lucky enough to find a place that was doing testing in our town. They had a tent set up at one of the schools, and we went ahead, we got tested. We again were one of the lucky ones where we got results in 24 hours, which is, pretty much unheard of. And that's when we found out that we were both positive. What I can then tell you at that point, when we got the positive test, each day for myself, I was getting worse and worse. I then started having a little bit of the cough, and then I was having the breathing issues. And anytime I couldn't have a conversation with anybody without coughing, and I just couldn't catch my breath. If I got up to go to the bathroom, I literally would have to sit on the floor for 20 minutes to catch my breath, to do anything. It was just, I had never felt so deflated and just couldn't move, just had the trouble breathing. So a few days later, the cough kept getting worse and worse. The breathing got worse. A friend of ours got me a pulse oximeter so that way I could start taking my oxygen levels, which were dropping. They were about a 91 to a 90 at that point. Usually
Whoa.
doctors recommend when you get to 90 that you should go to the hospital. But to be frank with you, I think take away the symptoms, which were absolutely horrible for me, the emotional aspect of all of this was the most devastating part, because my husband and I sat there for a couple of nights, and each night as I was feeling worse, we were trying to debate, do I go to the hospital or not? And we'd sit there and have this emotional conversation. Do I go? Do I not? Do I go? Do I not? And to be honest, my whole, I guess, kind of thing of not wanting to go was the fear that I was not going to leave the hospital. If I went in, then that was it. And I was going to die there. And I was avoiding it. And I'm glad that I stopped avoiding it. Sarah actually turned me on to the Survivor Corp group. That is a huge COVID community of people that have it, people that did have it, people that are concerned and want to know about, more about it. And went on there and was talking to people left and right about what they've been doing and when they went to the hospital. And because my big thing was I went to a walk-in clinic and I had them listen to my lungs. And I figured if my lungs are clear, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. And they said, no, your lungs are clear. But meanwhile, I can't breathe at all. My oxygen levels are going down. Like I couldn't comprehend how are my lungs clear, but I can't breathe. So on this group, I asked everybody, I'm like, can a doctor listen on a stethoscope to your lungs and they sound clear, but something is wrong and something is wrong with your lungs? And so many people came back and said, absolutely, you can sound clear and you're not. You need to go to the hospital. So finally got up a couple of days later, and on the weekend decided the whole plan was I was going to go to the hospital. They were going to say, you're good, go home, and just, finish doing what you've been doing all along, and that's it. But I never expected that when I went there and after doing a chest x-ray that then I had pneumonia, and they admitted me. So I spent a couple of days in the hospital for pneumonia. And I was on the hydrochloroquine and also an antibiotic, which we'll never know, truly, I guess, if it works or not. I can't say because I started getting better after it, but I don't know if my body was going to get better at that time point anyway. So it's like, yes, is it convenient? I took these drugs and all of a sudden I got better. Yes, but I can't turn around and say that will work for everybody. And if it wasn't just my body, fighting it off. But I thank God that I took the drugs because, of course, in my head, I was thinking, it did work. But what I will also say, a little caveat with being in the hospital with COVID, God bless the nurses and doctors. And I'm so not saying this as a put down to anybody, because putting their lives at risk for total strangers, and I get the total fear that these nurses must have, because again, this keeps changing every day. But I've been in the hospital, multiple times over my life, and this hospital stay was something so different than what I'm used to. And when I tell you, you are really, truly on your own in a hospital, you kind of are. The whole time I was there, I never even saw a doctor. They call you in your room and they talk to you on the phone, because I'm sure they don't want to take the risk of getting sick. And I'm not on a ventilator. I was on oxygen, but why risk your life then for somebody that is not as sick as, say, maybe somebody else? Same with the nurses. It's not your normal stay where, nurses are coming in and out of your room all day long, checking vitals and doing this and doing that. You're pretty much in your room, door closed, not open, and they would come in maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And that was to give you your medication and take your vitals, and they are out of that room. So, it is quite a bit isolating to, be in the hospital. I don't fault the nurses. Anytime somebody walked in my room, I apologized because I felt bad. They had to come near me. And I would feel terrible if somebody had gotten sick because they were trying to take care of me. But it was pretty difficult being in there. And I think if I didn't go to the hospital when I did go, and if I waited a couple of more days, I think the situation would have been a lot worse for me. So I'm thankful that I went. I just want other people that are sick, because I can't tell you how many people that I talk to that say, I can't breathe, I can't this, I can't that. And I think others have the fear like I did going to the hospital. And, unfortunately, I think some people are getting much sicker or even dying because they're waiting too long. And I wish I went earlier. It is what it is now. I thank God that I came out on the other side of it. I was with symptoms for 31 days, and this last weekend was the first day I can finally say I was symptom free, and I'm on day 5 at the moment, and knocking on wood that I continue to stay, symptom free. And actually me and my entire family that lives here, my husband and my 2 children, are all going tomorrow to get our antibodies tested, to see what kind of antibodies we have. And more importantly, I'm excited because my 2 sons who live with us that are 17, they never showed symptoms. We never got them tested. The doctors, though, said chances are they most definitely had it. There's no way they couldn't have, but we don't know. So with them getting the antibody testing, we'll be able to know for sure if they did indeed have it, but, they were just asymptomatic, which, is good for them. And this is why now I think you're seeing these numbers go up drastically off of these antibody testing, and people that weren't sick before and never tested positive, and they're now showing antibodies. So I should know sometime next week what we look like in terms of antibodies. And I'm hoping to God that, all of us, hopefully, if we have them, that we can go and donate plasma and hopefully help others that are so, terribly ill.
I have a ton of questions for you if you don't mind me stepping in here.
No, please do.
So did they give you albuterol while you were there?
When I was in the ER, they did give me one breathing treatment, which did help. One of the problems with me, I'm very, very sensitive to any kind of medication, and I'm actually allergic to several antibiotics. After they gave me the albuterol, I felt it helped a little bit. My heart, though, was racing pretty bad, and that was one of the things also that happened with me with COVID, where my heart rate was really high, even though I wasn't moving a muscle, and even laying down, my heart rate was very high. So I felt better in terms of breathing, but I felt really bad afterwards just because of the heart palpitations with taking it. But they only gave me one treatment.
Did they give you heparin by any chance, or like as a prophylactic, or no heparin? When you were in a room, you were by yourself without a roommate?
Correct. Yes, you will not be in there. In fact, when I was in my room, I was on a floor that was just COVID patients, and my door, on the outside of the door, they actually had, which I call the scarlet letter. It was a big red kind of sign to basically let everybody know not to come in my room. Some of the other patients didn't have it. What I suspect is that the patients that didn't have that kind of red sign, that they weren't sure yet if they had COVID. They might not have been tested, Whereas for me, we knew when I walked into the hospital, I was already positive. So I kind of suspect that was how they could tell who they knew absolutely for sure versus we're not sure. But yes, you are in a room by yourself.
So it was one of those positive pressure rooms that you had gotten a hold of?
No, you know what? That it wasn't, because when I was in the ER and I got the albuterol, they explained to me that in that particular room in the ER was kind of pressurized, and that's why it was safe for me to get the albuterol. When I was brought up to my hospital room, I had asked if they were going to give me another breathing treatment, and they said that they couldn't in those rooms because they're not like pressurized, and there's too much risk with the mist of me doing a treatment like that with the mask in, the regular room. So I never did get another treatment.
When they gave you the positive results, did they give you like any parameters to look out for vital signs? Like, I know that they would definitely say, like, if you experience shortness of breath, obviously you should go. But like, did they say, like, because like I think that your way of going about it, where you didn't want to go, and then I'm hearing a lot of people talking about like that a lot of people are dying at home because they're afraid to go to the hospital for similar reasons or a variety of other reasons. But I'm wondering, did they give you any parameters, like say, like, if you're breathing 40 times a minute, or if you're having extremely shallow respirations, like, did they give you anything to go on besides like some general statements?
No, unfortunately, it was more or less, if your breathing gets bad, then go to the hospital. So that's pretty much the general information that you get, is if your breathing's bad, just go. It was later on through, again, that Survivor Court group that I was asking questions of everybody else that had gone through this, where there was a lot of people sharing with the pulse oximeter and your oxygen levels, and people saying, my doctor's saying when it hits 90, go to the hospital, or when it hits this, go to the hospital. And so it was basically sharing information from everybody else that was going through this versus, getting a lot of information from doctors. I mean, and personally speaking, and I don't hold the doctors or the CDC or anybody else responsible. I don't think anybody's giving purposely false information. I truly think we're obviously in unprecedented times where nobody really knows. I mean, it's still very early. There's so much data. Everybody's focusing their time and efforts trying to help people, that there's not tons of time spent on kind of looking at all these parameters and see, what works, what doesn't. So I don't hold them responsible for the information that's going out there. But one of the things I have a problem with is, I think the CDC, I think doctors, there's information where it's like, oh, if you don't have a fever for 7 days, you're good. You can go back out. You can go to the store. You're not spreading it. And I think that for me personally, it's just false information, because I've been taking, I guess, more of the advice of hearing the people that are actually positive, that have actually gone through this, and what they're seeing. People that have been lucky enough to get retest, they're saying, oh, I've been symptom free for 20 days and I'm still coming up positive. So it's like, when you hear things like that time and time and time again, I've been now trying to kind of listen to that to judge what I'm going to do. And so personally, I'm not following the CDC guidelines of the 14 days. I'm not even following 21 days symptom free. I think the latest that I am seeing and hearing a lot more of is they feel the chances are they're finding people negative after at least 28 days of 0 symptoms. And that's kind of the guideline I'm following at the moment, unless you're lucky enough to get a retest. Unfortunately, in New Jersey, up until today, New Jersey wasn't doing any retesting on people because there's not enough tests to go around. You physically have to be sick. Today, I had seen a post from where I originally got my test, and they are allowing retesting. So I will be doing that. I just feel like I want to wait a little bit longer. I don't want to take it too early and find out I'm still positive and I'm kind of taking a test away from somebody that is sick. So I'm probably going to wait at least another week or two before I go and get the retest.
Will you talk to people about, like, a lot of people want to, I know that there are people in the chat who have tried to get tests done because they've been really sick and they haven't been able to get tested and stuff like that. And a lot of people are kind of in the dark about what the testing process is even like. Will you talk kind of about what the process was like to get tested?
Yeah. Again, by the grace of God, I think we were extremely lucky with the test. My husband and I, when we were sick before we officially got tested, we started going online and, looking up information where to get tested. Now, mind you, again, this was earlier in March where testing centers were just starting to pop up. And of course, then you had where there was hundreds and hundreds of cars lining up to even get to these places. So like PNC, they weren't even open yet at the time when we had gotten sick. I think the only testing center was up North Jersey. And so what had happened was we went online, we're looking to see where there's testing centers, where we can go, what the requirements were. And by some miracle, my husband it was a Sunday night, he was online and I don't know if he found a link or he was just searching, but he had found one of the walk-in clinics in Howell where we live. And he was on their website and they basically had on their page that they had COVID-19 testing and that they were, going to go ahead and do testing for people. Right on their website, they had a pre-registration form that you had to fill out with basic information on there and, kind of check boxes, what your symptoms are. And you completed that. You chose the day and time that you wanted to get tested. And the testing site was at one of the middle schools in a tent. So it was outside. And so you just showed up then at the tent at your assigned time. And somebody would come up to your car, check and make sure, you are who you are, and went right up to the tent. And for us, we stayed in the car. You never had to get out. You do roll down your window. You're supposed to be wearing a mask. You roll down your window. They are fully hazmat type outfit, fully covered. They will then turn around and take your oxygen level, or at least this is what they did for us. They'll take your oxygen. They'll take your temperature to see if you're running a fever. And I can't remember if they did blood pressure or not. They might not have. And they ask you, what were your symptoms? What's going on? How long have you had it? And, next thing I know, I'm getting the swab, which from what I understand, it's changed a little bit. But at the time when they started doing this, it's similar to a flu test where you get the swab put into your nose. The only difference is when they started the COVID testing, unfortunately, the swab or what they thought has to go much further back. And so it is a bit painful. It's very quick, but people make the kind of comment that they're touching your brain. That's literally what it feels like. It's going that far back. And for me, for my testing, they actually do both sides of your nose. So they tell you they are testing for COVID and they also test for the flu and a couple of other things when they do that test. And that was it. And you leave. And like I said, luckily enough, we ended up getting a call within 24 hours. And that's when they had told us we were positive. And we then, both of us, got a call within a couple of days from the CDC, who will then go through and kind of ask you questions about, where you've been. I think it was 4 days prior to getting sick. They want to know where you've been, who did you have contact with. They'll ask about your symptoms and things of that nature. And so, that was done as well. And I believe that the CDC does that for any person that's been tested positive.
You said that your husband had a vastly different experience than you did. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, he started off with more of his first day was kind of like chest pains and kind of chest pressure. So he had that at first, and he didn't know if it was just anxiety or what's going on. He then started kind of having aches and pains, which is kind of similar to what I had. That was like the bulk of his symptoms, was kind of the aches and pains, the chest hurting and tightness. I don't think he ever had a fever. If he did, it was more low grade. It never, went up to the, I want to say classic 100.3 is what they were telling everybody, is if you're.
How did he qualify for a test if he didn't have a temperature or a large one?
I know. Well, I think it was, to tell you the truth, they asked you what your symptoms were there when he showed up, and actually, I believe he didn't have a fever when he pulled up. But again, people will get fevers different times of the day. So it's like, if you had a fever the day before and you say, yes, I had a fever, they're going to go ahead and test you.
Okay.
But he developed a cough earlier than I did. It took me about a week for me to get the cough, but he had the cough. So, again, I think we just got lucky based on, one of the clinics just got the test. We literally caught it as soon as they put it online. We registered. They started doing testing that Monday morning. And him and I had like an appointment at like 9:30 and 9:45. Like we were one of the first ones to get there. So it was just like the right time, the right place, all aligned. And so we lucked out.
Can I just I just want to take a look at the chat for a second here. Just to address anything that anyone is saying. So let's say hi to Diane, hi to Josh, hi to John. Scott says, Alexis, Sarah's sister, we are happy you are on the other side of this horrible monster. Hope there are many healthy days ahead. Amanda said, I'm so glad that you're okay and that you made it through. Kylie's in the chat. Andy is there. Laura is there. Jordan Royale is there. Kristen. Alexis, glad that you're feeling better. Madison's in the chat. DJ Alien is in there. Your mom is in there. Scott is in there. Brother Jimmy is in there. Damien is in there. I have a question. As you're going through this entire experience, it seems like so you have all of these ideas of what to expect, right? And then so then you make the decision to go to the hospital. You end up in a room where no one will come in and they'll only communicate with you through a telephone. Yeah. So it's like a two-part question. Number one, when you realize that no one's going to come in the room, that it's that bad. Hey, what's up, Rose? That it's that bad. What goes through your mind? And when you realize that you have pneumonia too, then what goes through your mind? And part of the reason that I'm asking this is because one of the things that's dominating the media and the internet right now are all these idiot protesters out there saying that this isn't real and shit like that. And like, I can't imagine how that affects somebody who's actually going through it at that moment in real time. So, so I if you could go into a little bit more detail about what goes through your mind when you realize, holy shit, I'm in a room that doctors won't even come in.
Yeah. And you know what? And I don't even, well, I can later. When I sit there and we know, like, I can have an attitude. And when I see these freaking protesters, I've never wished death on anybody, but let me tell you, I'm there because I am so angry. And here's the reality. And like I said, I can deal with the pain I had to go through, and not feeling good. Here's the reality before I walked into that hospital and made that decision, which is what killed me. Again, the emotional aspect. I'm sitting there getting ready to go to the hospital, and I'm looking at my husband and I'm like, do I go up and say goodbye to the kids? And I'm like, I don't want to scare them, because for a week prior, I literally can look, especially my one son, in his face, and every time he looked at me was complete fear on his face as I got sicker and sicker. And I, would stay away from him. But there were times he'd come down and I'm literally laying on my kitchen floor. Like, it was killing me. And so I said, you know what? No, because the whole thought was I'm going to go to the hospital and they're going to say, no, you're fine, just go home. And I thought that's what was going to happen. And so I didn't say goodbye. I didn't want to stress him out. Figure my husband will tell him later on if they're looking for me to say, oh, she just went to get checked out. When he then had to tell them that I was admitted, the first thing when the hospital tells me you have pneumonia, we're admitting you, I start crying because I think of two things. I'm going to die here alone. And the other thing that I thought of is that I did not say goodbye to my children. And that's the emotional shit that I want to tell these fucking protesters to go to hell. And you know what? You want to protest that you need a job or you should be out there, then you go be the fucking nurse and you go in the hospital and risk your goddamn life. Okay? So that's the hell that I had to go through. And then watch my husband when I had to call him and tell him I have to stay there and him break down thinking I'm not coming home. So this is the reality of what's freaking going on with all of this. And to shame those people that still think this is the flu or I have rights, the government can't tell me what to do. Half of those people that have no symptoms or whatever probably have it and passing it and they just don't know it. But they think this is all a conspiracy. You
know what else? Like just being like a family member who's worried about someone who has it. It's a weird feeling because if someone you know, like care about is in the hospital and they say like, oh, I'm getting released. It's like something to celebrate all the time. But like when you told me you were being released, it actually scared me because I kept thinking, what if the only reason they're releasing her is because she's not on a ventilator and they just need to make more space for more people. Yeah. And she's not going to get the care she needs because someone else needed, extra equipment or the room or whatever. Yeah. And, there's so many times where you freak out for things that aren't like you would normally never. It would be like the total opposite. Like, for a week you were so sick, like you couldn't really talk because you couldn't talk much because you would just choke basically and cough. And then I was eating dinner and like our mom called and she has this tone of voice whenever she's about to tell you something terrible. And when I picked up the phone, that's the tone she had. And I'm like, oh my God. And I actually was first scared that she called to tell me that you had stopped breathing. And, then she told me that you had pneumonia and were being admitted to the hospital. And I just like broke down crying at the table. And, Rick didn't know what was happening. He just saw me crying and immediately assumed it was about you. And it's like, you would think that you saying that you're being released from the hospital, that I would be like, oh, fucking awesome. Like, yeah. She's getting better. It's going to get better now. But like, I was actually like, you better make sure that they're releasing you for the right reasons. So, like this is, yeah. And like, I get that that's selfish because if it is that they're releasing you because they need it for even sicker people, I guess it's selfish, but it's like, on the other hand, it's like, fuck it. Like, how are we not going to be selfish for those reasons, if for any reason at all? Yeah. It shouldn't be a decision that's made, period. But those decisions have to be made when people insist on going to get their nails done and all this other shit they don't need because now they're overrunning a medical system that's already overrun. Right. But like,
I'll tell you, there was no clap out for me when I was discharged. They could not get my ass out. And here's the other funny thing. The day they were discharging me, I then asked, because I drove myself to the hospital. So my car was in the parking lot. And so I've been in the hospital enough times to know that they don't let you go off on your own. Like, you need somebody to pick you up. And so I had asked the nurse and I said, I drove myself here. Am I allowed to just, when I walk out of here, like I can get my car and leave? And she's like, yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, all rules are out the window. So, I mean.
They're just like, just get the fuck out. Just get out.
Yeah, well, there was a day. So I was on oxygen the whole time I was there, except the last day. And so I was on full oxygen 24 hours a day. And so when I'd have to go to the bathroom because I couldn't reach the bathroom, with the.
Wait, when you say full oxygen, do you mean non-rebreather or a nasal cannula?
No, a nasal cannula.
Okay. Right.
And so I would take off my pulse oximeter or whatever to go to the bathroom. And so when that's off long enough, an alarm goes off, on the machine. And so I remember the alarm was going off And, you're used to the nurse would normally come in and play around with the machines and, reset whatever. And that wasn't the case here. She came up to my door and she started yelling through the door, giving me instructions how to fix the machine in my own room. So that's
Wow, that's crazy.
What was your pulse ox with the nasal cannula?
About 97, 98.
Okay.
Yeah, like even now, I'm still, from my understanding with pneumonia, it takes several weeks before that can clear up. And so I only get about a 95 on my right side and my left side's 97. So I'm still not completely normal. Normally if I go to the doctor, I'm like 99, 100. Like I'm always, I've never had a 95, before. So it's still not back up to normal, but at least
They have you on a full 6 liters, or do you remember, or was it 2 or something like that?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Was the oxygen level? Was it a like 6 liters per minute, 2 liters? Do you remember? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Did you actually see any other COVID patients in the hospital?
I know they were there. I was all the way at the end of a hallway in a wing. And I know that there was somebody in the room across from me and somebody to the left of him, because I kind of see the nurses here and there, like go in those areas, and they had things on their doors. One of the nurses, that he was actually an oncology nurse, and they're, because of this, they're rotating them in and out. So, here he is taking care of non-oncology patients. He's taking care of COVID patients. He's not used to this. And he's the one that had told me that we were in the hospital. It was a floor typically they would have for, say, older people having like hip replacements and things like that. And that whole floor was changed over to just a COVID floor. So,
yeah, telemetry floors are usually the first. Those are the sacrificial lambs of floors for sure.
Yeah,
I asked Sarah about this with you. I hope you don't mind that I wanted to ask you directly.
Yeah.
Do you? There's a lot of talk about this COVID brain thing. Do you have any experience? Do you have any firsthand experience with it, or?
So the things that I've heard, because as I hit my 40s anyway, I'm always joking around that I have a brain tumor or early Alzheimer's, because it's each year you get a little more forgetful or whatever. But I can definitely say during this, which again they don't really talk about as a symptom, but especially since I've gone back to work, things that normally I would know, I'm like, now it's fuzzy and it's like, is that this? Or, and I have to go back and look at notes. And so a lot of COVID patients kind of ask the question, do you have like a fuzzy brain where it's just, you can't recollect things that you could before and you're kind of forgetting things. So I have noticed that I have done that, especially with work-related things and even like easy things. It's like, now the big thing is groceries and getting groceries. And so I'll be in the kitchen, saying, oh, we're going to run out of this. So let me put it on my grocery list. And literally, 30 seconds later, I get my phone to put it on my list. And I don't remember what the hell it was. And literally, I may not even remember, or it'll take me 10 minutes of literally trying to go in my brain to say, seriously, you knew what this was 2 minutes ago. How the hell are you forgetting this? So I definitely have experienced a little bit of that.
Somebody in the chat has a question for you. Kristen has a question. She says, "Hi, Alexis. I'm curious, did you get to speak with your family while you were in the hospital? Do you get to call them at all?"
Well, yeah, especially since there's a phone in your room, and the only way that you can communicate with doctors and nurses is with the phone. So, so I had.
So wait, does that mean that you can make calls and the doctor tries to call you and it's busy?
Yeah, like do they have a call waiting or something?
You know what? I actually had. They don't have call waiting, but when I was in the ER and I then was talking to my husband, The nurse needed to talk to me. So she came up to my door and banged on my door to let me know to get off the phone to call me. So, yeah. But yeah, so I had the phone in my room. I also had my cell phone and was able to like FaceTime people on my phone. The biggest hurdle was a charger. It's like, okay, I have a phone, but I need a charger. Like, I don't know how long I'm going to be in here. I can't tell you again the hoops that I had to go through to have somebody drop off. Like, I literally had just the clothes on my back. It's like, I need at least underwear, you know, to change, like something. And I had to ask the nurse, I'm like, you know, can my husband or somebody drop off a bag of clothes or something? And from what I heard, the rules are you're not allowed to do that. But she said, you know what, I'll talk, you know, tell him to bring the bag. It's okay. And when he called the hospital to be able to do that, the front desk said, no, you cannot come here. You cannot drop nothing off. And I talked to the nurse who said it was okay. And she said, I'll call the front desk. I will tell them. I will go down personally and get your bag. And so we had to jump through even hoops to get, you know, a bag with some socks and underwear and a phone charger.
So important note, if you're going to go to the hospital, make sure you bring a bag, even if you expect to be discharged.
Exactly. I did not even think of that at all. I brought my pocketbook, and again, I thought I was going home. So yes, I guess if you suspect and think you need to go to the hospital, bring
your phone charger.
Yeah. So as this is going on and you're realizing that you can't get your own bag, that they're going to keep you there, that no one goes in the room with you, again, are you getting increasingly more afraid, or are you already as afraid as you can be going into the hospital to begin with?
I am as afraid as, I mean, it's kind of like I was afraid, but in a way I felt a little bit better because, you know, now I'm on oxygen. They had given me what everybody thought, you know, could be the miracle drug. So it was like I was being medicated. So in that respect, it was like I was really, really scared, but it was like I'm getting stuff that I can't get at home. And that gave me a little bit, you know, relief. And I'm thinking, God forbid, if something really goes wrong, I'm in a hospital, so somebody can do something. But when they initially told me you have pneumonia, we're admitting you, that was probably my lowest point where I just lost it.
Did you have the red eyes and all that associated with it?
No, that I didn't have. I also had, which now I'm seeing more and more people had, I had some GI symptoms as well during it. But I didn't have the red eyes. The other thing that now is new that they're talking about is the broken blood vessels, especially in your feet. I didn't have that. Yeah. But I think almost everything else that they say, I had headaches every day. I actually had migraines. I suffer from migraines anyway, but I get maybe 2 or 3 a year. I ended up getting three of them each day in a row. And so I was migraine medication each morning and had the headaches on top of it. So I had that also.
Man.
Amanda in the chat said, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, a lot of people wouldn't be willing to discuss this. You know, it's certainly appreciated.
Yeah, no, I mean, my whole thing is to share my experience, get, you know, the information out, because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation. Another thing, actually, I kind of wanted to speak to quickly is that, so when I went into the hospital, aside from I was being admitted for pneumonia, but I think the main reason why they wanted to admit me is because I have high blood pressure and it's controlled. But of course, it's on the list of underlying conditions that can be a problem with COVID. So, when I was admitted to the hospital and they're watching my blood pressure, before I went in the hospital, I made sure to, you know, take all my medication with me. So that way, when they ask what kind of medication you're on, I can just, you know, say, here you go, I'm on this, and this. I am on 2 different blood pressure medications. I'm on one called metoprolol and another one called losartan. And so I had given that information to, you know, any nurse or doctor that was talking to me. And when I finally got into my room that evening, It was about 8 o'clock at night. I hadn't eaten, I hadn't drank or nothing all day. I hadn't taken my medication. So I was like, I need to take my medication. I'm like, I have it in my purse right now. I can take it. Just give me something to drink so I can take my medication. And so the nurse is like, no, we have your medications. It's called into our pharmacy. It's being brought up to you. And when they brought up my medication, they brought up the metoprolol, but they didn't bring up the losartan. And I'm like, there's a medication missing here. And I'm like, where's the losartan? They're like, I don't know. Maybe they made a mistake. We can check. And again, I'm like, I have the bottle right here. I can take my own. And he, insisted, saying, don't let me double check. And after speaking, I guess, to the doctor to find out what went on with the losartan, he had then noted they did not want me taking that because there has been some discussions that losartan is an ACE inhibitor, and there's been some concerns that an ACE inhibitor can be a problem with anybody that has COVID-19. And so they wanted to replace this losartan and give me a different medication in its place. So currently right now, I'm still not taking losartan, and I am, taking what the hospital had given me. But what is frustrating, I guess, and the reason why I'm sharing this is that your average Joe doctor that you're seeing, they don't have all this up-to-date information. And the other sad part is I have two friends that they had come up positive, and their spouses both have high blood pressure, and both of them were on losartan. And so I had told them, you need to call your doctor, and you need to tell your doctor to take them off the losartan and put them on something else. And their doctors refused, and they won't change their medication. And so it's frustrating. I mean, at the end of the day, they may do further research and say, losartan's fine with COVID. But if there's a chance it's not, I don't understand why, they would not just, you're talking high blood pressure medicine. There's a bazillion different high blood pressure medicines.
Yeah.
You can easily swap, one out for something else.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of Rick and Morty when Rick says sometimes science is more art than science.
Yeah. So, that's another thing too, is that, you don't see that out there. I have a friend of mine who actually works at Jefferson Hospital in Philly. That's all she's doing is working on COVID patients. And I kept checking in with her while I was in the hospital, kind of double checking everything that was going on with me, what they wanted to do with me. And when I had told her about my losartan, within a minute, she sends me an article of a study that said, do not take losartan. And I was like, okay, so the hospital knows what they're doing. And again, my friends, I gave them that article. I'm like, give this to your doctor. And still after they gave it to their doctor, they're like, no, we're going to leave you on it. You'll be fine. And it just is devastating that there could be, possible medication, something as simple as a blood pressure medication that could be making somebody much more sicker than what they originally were, because they're seeing the COVID kind of not interact. I'm
not familiar with losartan specifically, but there are articles that are talking about the fact that they do not think that high blood pressure medication generally is affecting COVID patients. And the unfortunate thing is that it kind of sounds to me like your friends are part of a data pool at this point. I think a lot of us are part of a data pool at this point.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And that's
So I just wanted to say that I got a comment I wanted to read to you, Alexis. From Diane King Stroud wrote, thank you for being so open about your experience. I'm concerned for myself. I was hospitalized in February after being sick for 2 weeks, went by ambulance diagnosed with RSV. Now I think I'm going to go get rechecked. I've had so many similar symptoms as you are discussing. I have asthma and COPD. Thank you so much for sharing.
And you know what? Because if she went to get tested now for COVID, she very well, if she doesn't have symptoms at the moment, you may come up negative, and then you're going to be frustrated, like, did I have it or not? The best bet is now, because I think they are so interested with the antibody testing, and to see those numbers that now you're starting to see, you're probably going to see more antibody testings than you're going to see COVID-19 testing.
Yeah.
And so if I was her, I would then try and get an antibody testing. And if she has antibodies, then that's going to tell her that she did have it at some point, and it could have been, when she was ill previously.
Can I ask you, with your husband's chest pressure, because, again, this is as crazy as this all sounds, all right. So personally speaking, when they started shutting everything down, I had this crazy ass runny nose for 4 days. And and again, I'm not saying that that's obviously a big sign or whatever, but it was a weird runny nose that I'd never experienced before, and it just went away. But then immediately after that, for about 4 or 5 days, but this was also during the chaos. I had chest pressure, but it felt like a panic attack chest pressure. It didn't feel like anything outside of panic attack chest pressure. And I was actually thinking about taking, because I have had that before, a few other times, but it's only lasted like a day or 2 or 3 max. And I would take a Xanax and it would go away. But I decided this time not to take a Xanax, and it lasted about 4 days. Same thing. Yeah. So was he able to tell if that at all that it was different than a panic attack type of chest pressure or not?
He's experienced anxiety in the past, so he could tell that this did feel different. Now, I think all of us can appreciate that everybody is just so scared about this. So show me a person that's not having kind of anxiety, or if you do suffer, that it's not exacerbated by all of this. I think too, he sat there plenty of times, especially when it first started, maybe it's just anxiety. Maybe it's not. When you do a lot of this back and forth, oh, it's just a runny nose. Maybe it was just a cold. Well, maybe it's not. And so you do a lot of this kind of guessing and yes, it is. No, it's not. And so you spend a lot of time doing that. Now in the long run, looking at it, the fact that he got tested and was positive, could have been part of it, anxiety, driven at the time. It could have been, again, the COVID. I definitely felt, I think his was a little bit more pain. I would kind of feel like pressure, like when you're sick, like somebody is sitting on your chest. So I think my pain was a little different than his, but the fact that I had pneumonia, it probably makes sense to kind of feel that kind of, pain. So he could have been having the same, along with anxiety on top of it. I think after all of this, everybody's all ready to run outside, like they're done. They want to go to the boardwalk. They want to do this. Me, I freaking have PTSD. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to be around people. I'm scared if I have, when I have to go back to work. I'm scared when my kids go back to school. Like, I literally am beyond paranoid. Like, I don't want to go in a grocery store. I'm scared to death to go out. So I'm like the opposite of everybody right now that, wants to go outside.
Oh, I'm good. I'm happy being home. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
I know I spend most of my life listening to people complain about how they wish they were home more and how much they hate work. And now I'm watching people protest the fact that they're not allowed to be at work. And it's like, what the hell's wrong with everybody?
Yeah. Well, that's where, I want to tell all these protesters, there are jobs. There are lots of jobs out there, so go be an essential worker, go drive the bus, go clean the subway system, go be a janitor in the hospital. There are job positions open. If you want a job so badly and need to get out of your house and you have all these rights, then please go do that, is what I say. Please give our nurses, give everybody else, give them a break, because they're risking their lives for your ungrateful asses that are out there. So
yeah, and possibly pushing someone else that did all the precautions right out of the way when you're next in line at the hospital.
Yeah. I sat there, having fights, and I finally had to stop with Facebook. I couldn't take it anymore because, having fights with people when they were like closing the reservoir down, and it's like, it's not right, it's not fair. And
yep.
I be able, their comment is like, I should be able to exercise. I should be able to walk. And I'm like, you not walking is not going to kill you, but you going out there most definitely can kill you, me, or somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm like, go in your
and you can go still walk. You can absolutely go still walk.
The idea that you can't exercise in your home is annoying.
Yeah.
That too, yeah.
And not for nothing, I've never seen half of these damn people have never rode a bike, have never walked, have never done any of this shit in their fat ass lives. And now all of a sudden, now they're crying and bitching because now they have to walk. They have to ride their bike. And it's just a bunch of bullshit. And what I feel bad for is the fact that you have these individuals now who could be symptom free, but they absolutely could have it. And they could be bringing it home to their children,
Yep.
their mother, their father, whatever. So it's just selfish ass people as far as I'm concerned. And I feel those are the people that are continue to spread it. You keep screaming and yelling and you keep going outside your house. And when can we go out again? If you just stayed in the damn house at the beginning, we probably would all be able to get out much sooner.
Yeah, it's the people that are screaming, oh, I'm not going to have my rights taken away, that are the same people that are having more rights restricted.
Right.
Because, you know, the people staying home aren't the ones that are forcing this need for more restrictions. It's the people who aren't.
Yeah.
Right, like people talk about rights all day, but then it's like, hey guys, there is such a thing as medical martial law. Assholes.
So I just wondered how bizarre of a feeling it is when you have people come at you wearing hazmat suits and you know they're wearing them because of you.
Yeah, I know. In a way, I felt good because, like I said, I was embarrassed. Like literally, like going to the hospital. I'm embarrassed that, you know, here I am standing, you know, so many feet away from. And here's the other funny thing. I thought going to the hospital, like it was going to look like a madhouse. There was, you know, the parking lot was empty. I go and walk in the emergency room. There wasn't one person, not one, in the emergency room. I literally go up to the desk. I go to hand, like, you know, my ID, whatever. She said, nope, you hold it. Somebody will call you. I'm like, okay, great. But it's like every person I came in contact with, I was embarrassed that I had to be there. I was embarrassed that I had to have them take care of me and felt so guilty and so bad that I am, you know, I'm diseased and I'm, you know, and somebody can potentially get ill from me and just felt horrible. So it's like when they were wearing all their gear, like, yeah, it's embarrassing because it's like I never thought I'd be in this position. Like here I am in a room and people, you know, wearing full suits. Like I've never had anything like that in my life. But I'm glad they're protecting themselves. So, you know, it's kind of like, oh my God, but then you're happy in a way too, because it's like, I want them to be okay and feel safe when they do have to come near me.
I just wanted to say that Andy Hall is in one of the chats and she said like on E.T. And it took me a minute to remember that on the movie E.T. there's a moment where people in hazmat suits are coming to get it.
Yes.
Nikki in the chat said, glad you're alive, Alexis.
Thank you. So am I.
Yes, so are we all. Because if she wasn't here, she wouldn't be able to finally play virtual reality ping pong with me.
Yeah.
Oh boy. We're working on the Nintendo Switch first, aren't we?
No, we're working on them simultaneously.
Okay.
Listen, all right, I just said that and a bunch of little hearts popped up. So I have a feeling people are on my side about this.
Okay. I already said I started setting my account up, so I will hopefully be able to play ping pong this weekend.
Yes.
Rose in the chat had said that she was curious how they got the Lysol into your veins if it was an IV trip.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, Rose, our cousin.
Yeah, all I gotta say about that is, I won't get into full politics because I know there's a lot of people that I know that's here in the chat that agrees with me in terms of my political stance and my pure hatred for Trump. So I apologize to those that are Trump fans, but I would surely love, and I work in the pharmaceutical industry, so I would love for him to be patient one. I will put that IV and get that shit going.
So I knew this was going to come up tonight, and I hate to be a little bit of a rebuttal here, but the UV light testing thing, the UV light.
Stones. Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there. Donald Trump did not say UV light. And he didn't mean UV light. He doesn't know what UV light is. Okay, so even if you're about to make a point, he didn't make a point.
There's a point to be made. There was a a treatment in the 40s and the 50s, and it was continued by the Russians into the 70s before the wide adoption of antibiotics. It was a treatment for pneumonia and tuberculosis, where they would treat 5 to 7% of the blood. I'm assuming it was through something similar to a dialysis machine, where they would do UV treatment on the blood to reduce microbes in the bloodstream. Damage DNA.
And you think that's what Donald Trump meant?
Now, I can guarantee that at no part did Trump say, there were studies done in the late 70s given tuberculosis. Yeah, exactly. So, any benefit of the doubt situation you have going here is coming from Michael Johnstone, not Stone.
Yeah.
So, and that guy can stay right outside.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I say, I'd like to take, Trump and all his family, and they should go out and be essential workers, is what I think. He wants to open the country back up. I think we start with Jared and his wife and him. And so you ride the bus, you go in the train station, clean it up. You're going to be a toll taker. Have them. And you know what? If you come out of this negative and you say it's safe, I'll come out of my house.
Rose just said Trump said his comments were sarcastic. Yeah. He's not that smart to think of UV light or quote unquote disinfectant.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and by the way, the idea that he said that as a joke.
He didn't. That wasn't
okay.
About
no. I know. But what I'm saying is let's imagine. Let's imagine for a second. Let's imagine for a second that it was just a joke, right? What a shitty joke. What a shitty time. In New Jersey, we just crossed 100,000 cases. We just crossed 5,000 dead from this. And this motherfucker's up there going, hey, just drink some Lysol. Am I right, guys? Am I right? Go fuck yourself.
New Jersey is getting between 3,500 and 4,000 new cases a day. That's terrifying. We're getting over a 9/11 a day's worth of new people.
Yeah.
And
he can't anything. Take whatever you feel about him, whether you like him or you don't. He's the president. So you would think what is coming out of his mouth should be trustworthy. And I'm using that term loosely, but you need to be factual, which we know, those kind of things aren't happening. And even if he was joking, first of all, that's not any kind of joke, number one. Number two, we know that he wasn't joking. He actually thinks in his head that could be a possibility. But even if it was a joke, you don't say that because there are so many people that are listening and taking what he's saying verbatim, and they, he said this. I mean, look what happened with the hydrochloroquine. He mentioned that, boom, nobody can get it. I literally almost had to go back to the hospital because in the hospital I was given the hydrochloroquine, and I had it for a couple of days while I was in there, and they gave me a prescription for the rest of the dose, the rest of the days that I needed it. Little did I know when I got home to get that prescription filled, and this was now towards the end of March. I called CVS, Walgreens, all of them. We're not going to have that until the end of April. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I had to call the hospital back. And I'm like, can't you just give me the medication? They're like, no, we can't give you the medication from our pharmacy. I'm like, but if I knew I could not get the medication I started when I left the hospital, then I would not have let myself in discharged. I would have stayed in the damn hospital to make sure I got all the medication that I needed. So, now you have people that probably had no symptoms or very little symptoms taking a medication that's not proven and taking it, when other people that were really sick needed it, should have, tried it. You have lupus patients that are supposed to be taking it and they can't get it. So, he needs to be aware of the words that he's using because there are people that are listening. There are complete idiots out there that think, the president said, I'm going to do it. So, it just is extremely disheartening that a comment like that would be made with no substance behind it, knowing that, he can't have the thought that, people wouldn't be stupid enough to do that. Yes, they are. there's lots of stupid people here that would do it.
He's people are saying, that he's responsible for a lot of extra deaths because of the dumb shit that he fucking says.
You know when like you were a teenager at a party and like you stayed really late when most people went home and the only people left were the ones that were like embarrassingly wasted and they're just sitting around like smoking cigarettes and they start saying dumb shit like, if you ate like 20 pickles, would you be mostly brine? Like they say like dumb shit that, like Trump just says things like that, except he's the fucking president. So it's like in a drunken party situation, someone would be like, man, if you can like inject light, it would probably get rid of this virus. But like he says it to the whole fucking country.
And even better, you might even be able to tan your insides.
Yeah. I'm sure his insides are tan too. I'm looking at the comments. And I'm embarrassed to say, like, I love my brother with all my heart, but I'm embarrassed to say that he's one of these dodos that, Trump's his man. So I see, he's on the chat and he's already having his little, heart attack. What? And I love you.
I never in a million years would have guessed that was true.
Yeah. So your brother is a Trump fan.
That's really awful. I really thought you were going to say that my brother was one of these people that likes to go tanning, but that was
no. But you know what? I can say whatever I want because I almost died, and my brother loves me, and you're just going to have to deal with what comes out of my mouth like forever. Like I am playing the COVID card for the rest of my life.
And not only that,
it's fucking Nintendo.
Not only that.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only does he have
Nintendo.
Not only does he have to deal with what comes out of your mouth, but like, listen, man, we might be at a point where even if you drank the Kool-Aid for this long, it might be time to start looking at what this guy says and go, okay, this is a little bit irresponsible. This guy has crossed some lines here. Like I'm willing to accept a lot of really stupid shit from Trump because he's not a bright guy. Like I've had people tell me that they think Trump isn't racist, and I've actually had to figure that out. And hold on.
Wait, my cousin just touched on that. My cousin in the chat just said he wants his followers to drink bleach so they'll be white on the inside also.
But my point is that people have told me
racist.
that Trump's not racist, and it occurred to me that. And I don't know how to make this make sense. I feel like Trump's not smart enough to be racist. Does that make sense? Like, he doesn't think far enough ahead to hate a group of people for that. He's just, fuck that. I don't care about this. I don't care. The only reason he's trying to get people back to work is because he needs somebody to shine his fucking shoes, dude.
Look, he had a federal case against him for being racist in late 70s, early 80s. Like to think that to be able to get a federal case put against you for that you're racially profiling your tenants in this late 70s, early 80s, whenever the hell that was.
And back then, nobody gave a fuck about anybody who wasn't white. So if you had that part again,
for that to come down, like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just have to live with the fact that he's dumb enough to be racist instead of too dumb to be racist.
Yeah, right. I don't know how to put it in words that make sense. It's just when I see Trump, I see a guy who just.
What you're trying to say is he's too oblivious to focus solely on someone's race.
That is the perfect way of putting it.
Because he is distracted by every little thing flying around his head. But that doesn't take away from the point that ingrained inside of him is this thing that focuses on someone's skin color or what country they came from and immediately demotes them to being lesser than the people that look like him.
You don't get prosecuted because somebody thinks that you think lesser of somebody. You get prosecuted because they think they actually have a winnable case, that they have enough evidence to convince.
He's a piece of shit. Like, let's all agree.
Come on. And one other thing. Listen. Nobody here is rich, okay? And like I feel like I've been poor most of my life. And watching poor people prop up another rich guy is so disheartening to me. Like we have to stop propping these fucking people up. Like if they go out there and they're like helping humanity and they're donating $1 billion to fix the rainforest and shit, then I could see you being like, oh, at least I have a reason for this. But when it's just like, hey, you know, Trump just says whatever he thinks, it's like, yeah, but everything he thinks is fucking stupid. So why is that a good thing?
But I think part of the problem now is that, especially now, he's making, with the whole COVID thing, calculated moves, and it's not based on the good for everybody and saving lives. It's now about his November campaign. He knows the economy is the only thing he has, that he needs to get something in place, which means he needs to get people back working. And so, you know, especially in this country, the dollar is always over the lives. That's just unfortunately the reality of it. But that's where I feel like now, that's why, you know, you have this focus on, oh, we can open some states back up. Soon as he said that, that's when the protests started happening. Like, it's like, are you kidding me? You know, and you have these disgusting people yelling and screaming derogatory things to nurses and doctors. I mean,
and there's another thing too, is like he does these things that, first off, if for a living I study language and critical thinking. So Trump is not as stupid as, I mean, he's stupid in a lot of ways, but he's not stupid in all the ways people think. Like, a lot of things that he says are worded in a specific way to speak to a certain voting base, right? But I also see that in a lot of the other actions. So a couple of weeks ago on the show, I was holding up that card from the CDC, and I might even still have it somewhere. Here it is. Okay. This right here. Okay, President Trump's coronavirus guidelines for America. And all I could think about is those first 30 critical days that he spent golfing and telling everybody not to worry about anything. And then he went golfing again, and he came back and told everybody not to worry. And then he went golfing again. And then this comes out. And this comes out in an election year. Let's just be honest, okay? Donald Trump's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. And he arranged to have his fucking name put on this. He made the problem worse. Putting his name on this is a move. Like, you have to understand that. You got to critically think about this. It's a move. If he puts his name on this and says, these are my guidelines to protect you, it's his fucking way of saving face and making it seem like he's putting out guidelines for you to protect yourself because the president cares.
And also
he does not care.
Keep in mind that stimulus checks were being held up because he insisted that his name be on the check. So, do you believe that people are like, wow, this came directly from him? He gave me this money. Like, it's psychotic.
Really, all it was, and really all that is you getting your money back. It's your fucking money. It's our fucking money. Yeah. You know, and by the way, a few days before he started taking this seriously, he also gave $1.5 trillion of it just away to banks, and it evaporated in 3 fucking days. To put that in perspective, and I've said it on the show and I'll say it again, I believe that amounts to roughly $4,500 per American citizen that he just gave away. Okay, while people are still waiting for their $1,200 to show up.
Yeah,
that's their fucking money that they put into this system. So he doesn't give a shit about you.
That money would be great when now I'm gonna have to pay all these hospital bills. You know, so I'm waiting for those bills to come in.
So as far as payment for testing goes, how is that for you? Like, I know that you have health insurance.
Yeah.
Your testing, was it free from the state, or was it,
well, here's the thing, because nobody's like touching any kind of insurance cards, taking money, like nobody's doing, or at least my experience is nobody's doing anything. Where I got tested, I believe that I'm going to get charged for it. There's some sort of fee. Of course, at the time, I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is. I just needed it done, and that was that. I believe places like the PNC Arts Center, those type of centers, I believe that is funded, whether it's federal or through the state. I'm not sure how it is. So I don't think that there is a cost for that. But where you see like some of these little places, like again, the walk-in clinic, they have tests, they're doing it, or certain doctors' offices that have tests and they're doing it. I believe that there is costs associated with it, to go through your insurance company, or if you have no insurance, I don't know what they're doing in those cases. So it just all depends on where you go. But I'm surely going to get hit with hospital bills and
Yeah.
EKGs, chest x-rays, blood work out the wazoo, and, it is what it
and
is.
And you don't even have a hint at how much it might be.
I don't even know. Like, slowly things are coming in here and there. I'm not even paying that much close attention yet. But, I mean, the other thing, too, that nobody's really talking about that, is my next biggest fear in my head is now, again, kind of coming out of China, what they're seeing and they're looking at more closely is long-term damage from the virus. And so they said, first and foremost, what they were seeing first was decreased lung capacity, that they suspect may be a lifelong thing. Of course, we don't know. The data's not out there yet to see what that looks like. But now they're also looking at permanent heart issues, kidney issues. So there's several things that they're looking at that, it could have affected it so much that there's some sort of long-term permanent damage. So for me, since I'm going to max out my deductible and everything else, so I'm going to get my money's worth. So I'm going to see every damn doctor known to man. But a couple of months from now, I'm going to a pulmonologist, a heart doctor, a kidney doctor, blood pressure, like everyone you can think of, to get everything checked out, inside, up, down, left, right, just to see, if everything is okay, or if I potentially may have some sort of health issue that now I have to, kind of follow, possibly long term. So we just don't know yet. I have had, that concerns me a little, while I was sick. I don't want to say heart palpitations. It's almost like kind of a little stabbing pain that's in your chest around your heart. And, and everybody kind of gets that little, kind of twinge here and there that it's like, ooh, and that's it, it goes away. And so, I would experience that here and there. Since I've been sick, I feel that every single day kind of go here and there. So I've been kind of worried and concerned. Is there some sort of heart issue? Do I still feel this? Because maybe I'm still positive, so I don't know.
I was going to ask you earlier about it. So you said that your symptoms just ended. What symptoms lingered?
Oh, good question.
The longest symptom that I had out of all my symptoms was the not being able to smell or taste. So I got that about 3 or 4 days in when I got sick, and I just started to be able to smell last weekend, and that was on day 31 of being sick.
Did that feel like it turned off for you, or did it feel like it faded away?
It felt like it turned off. It was the weirdest thing because, again, nobody was talking about it because it wasn't a recorded symptom yet because it was still so early on. And so it was the weirdest thing where a couple of days in, I just kind of noticed like it was gone. But I can, I wasn't clogged. I wasn't congested. In fact, it was almost the opposite. I'm used to always being kind of congested because I have really bad allergies and really bad seasonal allergies. So I'm always used to, something going on. But I literally felt so clear in my nose, no congestion at all, where it almost hurt my nasal cavity. It was like the weirdest feeling, but I couldn't smell anything. And I'm like, this is really weird. But again, I didn't suspect COVID. I didn't suspect anything because they never said anything about this type of symptom. And I was just so concerned with the aches and pains. I was in so much pain, then I was having the fevers that I never even brought it up and told my husband, oh, by the way, weirdest thing, I can't smell anymore. I just thought, oh, it'll go away or something weird is going on. And like I said, it was then I think 2 days later that they mentioned oh, some patients are losing their smell, and that's when, stuff got real, and I got nervous and felt, okay, you know what, we got to get tested. I think, I have this. And that's when I told my husband, I'm like, he thought I was kind of making it up, like, they said a symptom. It's like, oh yeah, I have that. And I'm like, no, I lost my smell like 3 days ago. And he's like, really? And he's like, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, I was concerned with everything else. I didn't think, oh, I lost my smell, big deal. I wasn't thinking anything. So even this weekend, when I got the smell back, what happened was a couple of days before that, it'd be the weirdest thing where if there was a really strong smell, like, a really strong candle or something that has a really strong scent, I can walk into the room, I can kind of initially smell it, not as strong as I would normally smell it. And then about 10 seconds later, the smell would go away. And then I'd go back to, I couldn't smell anything. It wasn't until this weekend then that I put the candle on, I can walk in the room, I can smell it, and I can consistently still smell it sitting in the room. The smell is not as strong as what I had before, but at least now I can, smell things. And it definitely helps with the tasting and cooking dinner, because I'm sure there were some nights where things had more or less flavor in it because I couldn't taste anything. So I'm like, sorry guys, like, I hope it's okay and it's edible, but, not thinking when I'm cooking, I come, from an Italian household. You don't measure shit. You throw in a little bit of this, you eyeball everything. So I remember I was making a lime cilantro rice one day, and I was like, there may be a whole lot of lime in there. I don't know. I can't taste it because I'm, trying the food. I'm like, there's not enough. And I put more. It's not enough. And I'm like, shit, I got to stop putting more in there. I'm probably going to kill everybody.
I don't know if Freddie's comment was to anyone in general or specifically to you, but he asked, would you take the vaccine if one ever comes? So
I am not like an anti-vax or anything like that. I get a flu shot every single year. So I've done things like that. My children, actually the only reason why I get a flu shot is my boys were preemies. They were born with heart conditions. And so when they were born, it was like, they have to get a flu shot. Everybody in the house has to get a flu shot. And it was to protect them. So I'm not against any of that. And I respect people that, some can't take it due to medical reasons, some, religious reasons, what have you. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, so I see the good that comes out of it. I also see sometimes things don't work out in the real world as it did in a clinical trial. And, we've all seen on the news over the years, things that have been pulled off the shelf. I can tell you the amount of work that goes into a drug, and the amount of years it's spent on making sure that drug, is safe, bottom line. But like I said, you have a trial of 100,000 patients, and then when you put it out to the masses and 3 million people are taking it, sometimes then that data is like, yeah, we got to get rid of this. I absolutely would take a vaccine, especially being as sick as I was. I don't think I would be the first person online taking it. I would like to kind of sit back and just, again, I'm a data person. That's what I've done for 25 years. I have to analyze and look at data. So I would like to see a little bit of the data when it goes out to the masses before I would take the vaccine. And the other concern too, again, being in this industry, there have been plenty of times before in the past, especially say when AIDS came around, where all bets were off when it came to the FDA and everything else. They cut a lot of red tape and said, you know what, we're going to give you a fast pass here, we're going to give you a fast pass there, because we were desperate. We are now again in desperate times, and they're looking to get this out in record time. And I can tell you, especially my husband, who's actively working on COVID trials at the moment, they are going to get this out really, really quick. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be safe or not, but it's not the normal time frame that we give to do what we need to do, to get a drug out there. So, it's hard to say to tell people to take it or not take it. Like I said, I would take it. I just want to sit back for a couple of months and see how it's working out with everybody else to make sure, it is indeed safe.
Hold on, I'm off for a second. Hold on. I just wanted to address a couple of things in the chat. Freddie Fry asked a question that I'm not sure that I totally understand. Do they actually test for RNA response, not the actual virus?
Probably with antibodies test, which is different.
With antibodies? Okay.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I do with the antibodies, but I'm not 100% sure. And when I got my another thing that I've seen on Facebook, some people, they're like, oh, what was your COVID-19 number? And I'm like, what are you talking about number? And I don't know if it's the lab, depending on the lab or what it is, but some labs you get like a positive result and there's actually a number associated with it. 2000 or, whatever it is. For us, again, I don't know if it was just that particular lab. Ours was just a straightforward, positive. That was it. And we never got like a number associated with our positive result. Same with the antibodies. I'm hoping when we get the tests, it's not just a positive or negative and we'll see the actual numbers, because I believe when you go to donate plasma, you need to have a certain amount of antibodies to qualify and to be able to do it.
Another thing I wanted to address, Madison said, curious what you guys think in regards to colleges and some other businesses being open. I'm thinking restaurants and some things might open midsummer. As for schools and colleges, personally, my personal take on it is anything that gets too many people in a room together while there's a rampant running virus is a really bad idea. And that includes restaurants and movie theaters and things like that. And I think that the bigger picture of that, which is really hard for people to swallow, is we've sort of lived under a capitalist society, almost like a religion, our entire lives. So a lot of these pitfalls and problems of capitalism are really showing their face right now, because there's no way to protect anybody from something like this happening. And I think we're seeing that in real time right now. So I personally don't think that anything should be open until this is solved. And to answer Freddie Fry's question about the vaccines, I don't get shots that I don't need. But under these circumstances, I think that a lot of us are learning about what we can and cannot take, or what we should and should not do. And, like I live in a household where there's a compromised immune system. I absolutely have to do whatever is in my power to make sure that my household remains safe. And I'm not a big shot guy. Like, I don't go for flu shots and things like that. I had my vaccines growing up for, I don't know, what do you get if you have, like, for polio?
Well, yeah, I mean, an
like
MMR shot is pretty standard. You know what I mean?
But but to get something for this, I think I would have to do it. I don't think I'd be the first one in line or anything. I worry about those things. Vaccines do sometimes come with problems. As Alexis said, I want to say it was the late 90s, I think they came out with a vaccine for Lyme disease, and all it did was give people Lyme disease. It didn't solve anything. So I am worried about that, but at the same time, I really have to think about protecting where I live and the person that I lived with and myself. I mean, dude, who the hell knows if I have an underlying condition that just everybody missed? Like,
there's because the amount of people that have underlying conditions that are missed because they don't have health insurance and they can't go to a fucking doctor.
Well,
my next step with my syndrome is to go get a nuclear stress test and an echocardiogram and a EKG done.
You're not able to do it right now.
Well, that's debatable, but yeah.
I mean, the thing, there's still a lot of people that look at this and, all you hear is, and I actually had an argument with somebody about this again the other day, Frank, this is where you start to see real friends, that it only affects the elderly, and it affects people with underlying diseases, and I don't have one, so I'm good. Here's the thing. The numbers, of course, if you're going to sit there and look at it statistically, it's not an elderly person disease. And yes, you hear 40 people from an old age home had passed away. I think if you had the same environment and it was 50-year-old people, you'd still see 40 people dead there. It's the environment that they're in. That's what the main problem is. Now, of course, because they're elderly and probably have a lot of medical problems, that adds to the fact. But you're seeing more of people in their 40s, their 50s. These
Yeah.
are people that
By the
seeing-
way, we have someone in the chat who I believe he's 11 years old. Her 11-year-old son was in the hospital with this.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is not like if you're old and you're almost dead anyway and all this other shit. It's
Well,
like
numbers are numbers too, though. They say that it's 40% of the patients are nursing home or underlying medical condition over the age of 60.
Yeah.
That pass, right? And that the
So
other
is the
60%
issue
of them
that
are
you
conscious.
just- So is it simply that you're okay getting this thing and being near death as long as you know you won't die? Because I feel like, I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
speaking
was
for
near
someone
enough,
else.
so that was
Yeah,
good.
like I feel like I'm speaking for you here, but I don't think I'm wrong in saying that if you had known you wouldn't have died, you would have been totally happy with going through that fucking painful misery. Like,
No,
how about
no, because here's the thing. We don't know long term what this does at all.
exactly?
Yeah, right.
But here's the thing about the underlying conditions, which drives me nuts, because everybody's like, underlying conditions and I'm good. When you sit there and you really look at and you read what the underlying conditions are, and I'll start out with the real obvious
It's
off the
everything.
top. You sit there and you have diabetics, you have people with asthma, you have high blood pressure and obesity. Those are the main ones. Now, first of all, take those four things just for the U.S. And how many people now do you think in the U.S. fit into that category of obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, or asthma?
I know. I brought up the other day that all these people that complain about this shit don't realize that obesity is an underlying condition.
Yes, which it is. Now throw in there people that had any kind of transplants and therefore immune compromise. Throw anybody in there that has any heart disease, any
Right.
kidney disease, on dialysis, neurological issues. You put all that in there. How much do you think is left in the U.S. population
Right.
that doesn't fall
And then on top of that, think of the amount of people that are on biologic drugs for arthritis. How many people in the country have arthritis? And the amount of people from that pool that are on a biologic drug, like any like Humira, any of those injectables for arthritis or conditions like that, all of those people are compromised and at risk. That's why you have to get a tuberculosis test before you can even take any of those drugs. And so, like, we're not talking about people have it in their head that there are these crippled people huddled over with walkers on an oxygen tank carrying, that those are the ones that get sick and everyone else is safe. And it's like, dude, you telling yourself that
Right.
is going to kill people. Like, and on last Awesome Talk, I said that I've noticed that my disabled friends and people that I know who have had chronic illnesses for years, decades, for their entire adult lives, have been very quick to accept how scary the reality of this is and adapted to it while it's happening.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that my healthiest friends, the most able-bodied, are the ones that are saying this shit like, oh, well, it's only these people and I'm good and my freedoms and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, like, guys, take a clue from us, the sick people. You need to be braver. Stop using sick people as the scapegoats to make yourselves feel better about a scary reality.
Yeah.
And just fucking come to terms with it that we could all get sick and we could all fucking die.
Right.
Because
Well-
you're hurting everyone in your delusions.
Yeah.
It's denial.
You got to consider also all oncology patients. Again, huge number in the United States, and you have to consider them. So now I say, what, 10 or 15% maybe of the population doesn't fall into the categories I just gave. And I think I'm being generous there. So what, those 10 or 15% think, oh, well, I'm fine, I'm good, I don't fall into that. those are the ones that are killing everybody else.
Yeah, Justin in the chat just said, a friend of mine is going through this now. He's 39 and in amazing shape. COVID-19 is kicking his ass.
That's right. Right, dude. And I'll tell you what, I see a lot of, I just watched a video online the other day of a bunch of children who are otherwise healthy struggling to breathe through this.
Yeah.
And it was horrific to fucking watch,
they
man.
Had in New York, I think it was yesterday, the day before, a firefighter in New York, his 4-month-old baby died of COVID. 4 months old. I mean, seriously. It's just, I get and I understand, and again, and I can't tell you how many times Trump has said it. It's the elderly population. You have to worry about the elderly. Stop saying that. It's an everybody population. It can affect everybody. Stop with the bullshit.
So yeah,
by then you have these asshole spring breakers that are out there
Yep.
partying on the beach. Let me tell you something. I love my kids to death. If they're little, first of all, who paid for them to go to Florida?
Right.
Okay, it was the parents. My kids wouldn't get a red cent. And let me tell you something. When they would come knocking on my door, and I have friends that they did this. In fact, one of my girlfriends said, they went out, they came home. You're not coming home here. You better go find someplace else to stay. You're not coming in this house. I mean, it's ignorance. But again, when you're having certain people of a certain stature that are on the news saying what they're saying, and they're like, oh, well, he said it's older people. I'm 20. I'm good. It's a fucking problem.
it's scary because, it's like people need to understand that you're living. I've talked a lot and also talk about the fact that you rely on your community more than you give it credit for. Even if you never leave your house, you rely on the food you eat coming from somewhere, the mail you get every day. Every single thing in your life is connected to someone in your community in some way. And I feel like more so than ever before in our lives, we are really coming to terms with the fact that we have to acknowledge that, and we're either going to be socially responsible or pieces of shit. And we're starting to realize the people who turned out to be the pieces of shit are, in some cases, not the ones we initially suspected it would be. And it's becoming a fucking it. Like, whenever this is all over, there's going to be a whole lot of weirdness between people, man. Like, I'm not going to be able to look at certain people the same way again.
Oh, there's people I will not fucking speak to when this is over. That's absolutely 100%. If you're out there telling me you have an opposing opinion to this, fuck your opinion. There is no fucking opinion. Either you're doing the right thing by people or you're fucking not. Like, this has got nothing to do with your fucking rights. Pat posted something the other day about how the people who are bitching and moaning about being oppressed are all people who don't know what real oppression fucking looks like. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're pissed off because they can't go to Trader Joe's.
So I fight with the
You
gloves
know
thing.
what? I mean, right now,
I know.
what I don't get is that everybody, every damn person, not just in the United States, globally, because there's not a place it hasn't touched. Everybody has to give some sort of sacrifice. And like, another thing, somebody's on Facebook and they're like, oh, what about people that have depression and me getting out to walk, helps them from committing suicide or what have you. And again, I understand their issues and I respect that. But here's a time where literally our kids can't even go to school and have to learn a different way. You can't go to work. You need to find another way to make money. You can't. Everybody is doing things out of the norm.
Yeah, listen, I have to go to the doctor every single Saturday of my life. I haven't been in almost 2 months. So, we're all making fucking uncomfortable sacrifices in order to stay alive.
Everybody has sacrifice. So I respect the fact, I have depression. It makes me feel better to go out and walk. Well, you know what? Maybe listening to music, you can do that. Maybe paint a picture. Maybe walk in your yard. You need to, why is it I'm depressed, that you don't have to change or try and do something. Everybody else is. I mean, every freaking body has to make a goddamn sacrifice if we're going to get through this.
Right.
And it's just like
people can walk. I walk. Wait, hold on. I walk all the time, but if I walk the streets. And if I see somebody coming the other direction, I hop on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Just walk around suburbia.
Yeah, but you know what? The problem is, like, I'm looking at my neighborhood now, and it's like I would love to get out. I have not been out of my house other than to go to the damn hospital in practically 40 days. So it's like I would love, now that I'm feeling a little bit better. And frankly, I sat there and I saw a video about COVID early on, which really, really helped. And I know Cuomo's brother did a similar a video saying how, like, when I was in the height of being sick, all you want to do is lay down. You don't want to move. And you actually feel relief by laying down and not moving. And that is the worst damn thing you can do because it settles in your lungs and you're fucked. And so I remember in the hospital, the nurses would pass by. They'd look at me like, what's wrong with you? And I would pace in a circle in my room in the hospital to just keep moving because I knew I had to do that. And it hurt and it sucked. And I wanted to just crawl in a ball in the corner and lay down because it felt so much better. But I knew I'm fighting for my life. I don't care. Get the fuck up. You got to move. And when I came home from the hospital, that is what I did. I put the TV on and I literally walked to my living room. And then during commercial, I'd go up and I'd walk my stairs slowly. I'd walk down my stairs again to help my lungs, help the pneumonia. And I just kept moving. So it's like, I'm fucking doing this in my goddamn house. Do you know what I mean? People could do this. I would love now to go out in my neighborhood with a mask on because there ain't no way in hell I'm not, just to get some fresh air. And I'm scared too because, again, I never seen so goddamn many people now in my fucking neighborhood that it's like I don't even feel safe walking in my neighborhood. Like, I'm like, is there a parking lot I can go somewhere where nobody's going to be there, where I can actually just take a little walk? I mean, it's crazy.
I keep telling Sarah that every time I look outside, it looks like Animal Crossing, like the game. It's just morons walking around looking up at the sky. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, get the hell in the house. I want to address
again, these people have never left their house before.
Yeah.
And the whole time I lived here, and now all of a sudden, everybody's outside. And
well, they're outside fighting for their freedoms.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Madison, to address your earlier question, I absolutely am completely against schools opening at any point for a very, very long time. Like, there's so many reasons why, like, first of all, it's not like schools are gonna open and then, like, all the classes are gonna be full. If we're talking about elementary or even high school, the amount of parents that are going to be like, you're not fucking going back, are you nuts, is going to be enormous. But, like, the amount of people that are going to be dropping their college courses is going to be it's going to be so high that it's almost going to be a risk for colleges to open because they'll actually make more money keeping their courses online than just assuming that people are going to actually come back to the classroom. And the thing that isn't being addressed as far as reopenings go, which is really infuriating, is seeing these states with their early opening guidelines, and all of the guidelines have listed that if you have a pre-existing condition, then the stay-at-home order still applies to you. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But the assumption is what? That all fucking people with underlying conditions live in a commune together alone? Like, we live with the people you're sending back to schools and, all these other places. Like, so where do they come home to? Do we just go and move in with each other? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it either kind of has to be you can't segregate disabled people because where the hell
and the other thing too, you know what I wonder about that, Sarah, enough for nothing? Are they going to compensate the people who have underlying conditions in some way?
They couldn't even do that. You're probably talking about at least 75% of the people in the U.S. Like, how are you going to, like, the only way I can see, which Cuomo kind of noted this even early on, and unfortunately we just don't have it. The only way that I can see that somewhat makes sense in terms of opening things back up in a more safe manner is either two things. Either A, they have a vaccine and it is successful. But I can tell you from a pharmaceutical standpoint what I do, that a minimum will take 12 to 18 months. And that would be the fastest we've ever gotten anything to market, if that even happened. So that's off the table for a while. The only other thing is testing. Not only just testing, every damn person in the US, but retesting, like monthly testing. That's the only way that we can kind of see and judge, somebody that, like me, that had it, that has a lot of antibodies. And if we see truly is you are safe, you are protected if you have the antibodies, that I then can go out, I can go to work. Those that are either, very ill, like Sarah, all the problems she has, it probably wouldn't be entirely safe. But even if you were to go out, if technically you're around people that have antibodies, they're not passing it, it should only be individuals that didn't get it really, 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 ill, and they really, really could get sick. And it's a smaller population that are still home until we have some sort of vaccine or what have you. But I mean, to just blanketly, we already see from the antibody testings that they're doing now the last couple of days, the amount of people that probably had it with no symptoms is so off the freaking charts. And how many more people are walking out there that say maybe in Missouri and they're not getting these damn antibody testings, that are still walking around that have no clue that they have it, and they just keep spreading it. And people that are like in Georgia, whatever bullshit that they're opening up, you can't turn around and say this ain't going to affect Jersey or New York one day. Because as you saw on the goddamn map, if you have fucking eyes, soon as it gets in one place, it then does this.
Yeah, and also on top of that, it's important to remember that right now the federal government has states fighting over medical equipment. So when you have a state reopen and suddenly all their medical systems are clogged and needing more and more stuff, and now they're bidding for more and more stuff, well, now another state that needs it isn't going to get this because this, so like the idea of you have to rely on your community to do the right thing is just something that comes up over and over and over again. And you cannot escape the fact that whether or not you like it, we are all currently connected to each other, and we have to rely on everyone else to do the right fucking thing. And right now, a lot of people just aren't doing that.
Well, Sarah, some moron on Facebook who follows the QAnon feed fucking told me that was all a lie and not real. Don't believe it. I want to just take a quick look at the chat here. Let's see. Oh man, where did I leave off here?
I got
Justin's in the chat. Hold on. Justin says greetings and salutations. Yeah, we're either okay. I'm not sure. Hold on. This is being real stuttery with me. Curious as to what you guys think. Okay, we already talked about the college. And what I wanted to say about that, Madison, is if they know what's good for them, they'll stay closed for at least the year.
And you know what's fun with the schools, especially, what's been a conversation for years and years and years, and that's about overcrowding in schools, and nothing gets done. Now it's going to be real interesting if that conversation's back on the table, and if we're going to do something about overcrowding in schools. Sure. So that's going to be funny.
Brandy's in the chat. What's up, Brandy? Let's see. I'm thinking drive-ins are going to make a comeback. They might make a comeback. I don't know.
Actually. I did see something on the news that old drive-ins that were closed, they were opening back up, and they were packed as can be.
I was going to say
awesome. I'll go to a drive-in.
I was going to say my living room sort of qualifies as a drive-in, so I don't want to go near anybody.
I don't really trust the foam on those speakers they put in the windows.
Yeah, right. Rose
you gotta
said,
bring your hand sanitizer and your Clorox wipes.
And your spray alcohol. Rose said, my job isn't opening back up until mid-June earliest. I'm telling you, it's not going to be open mid-June. Yeah, that movie theater is not going to be open mid-June. Let's see, what else? Again, Madison, if they know what's good for them, they'll stay closed for at least the year. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen because it's going to be a freaking disaster if they don't. Curious what you guys are doing about cleaning your homes. What are you using? How often? Can you share what you are doing? The one thing I can say is we keep our house clean, but I rarely ever leave it unless it's to get the mail. And I'll show you exactly what I do. I put on one of these first. Then I put one of these around here.
I wish so bad it ended where he just like picked up a giant gorilla head and put that on top.
I put these over top of this, and I put the hat on, and I go out, and quite honestly, I'm not even doing nearly as much as Stones is doing. Stones takes it to a whole other level because he's got the goggles and everything like that, which is the right thing to do. Your mom had mentioned radiation treatments because you guys were.
We were talking about all the different things that make you actually have an underlying condition. My mom said radiation treatments makes you fall into the category of vulnerable, which is also true. And you know what else is annoying is how many people's radiation treatments are currently being postponed for who the hell knows how long because this shit's going on, and it's frustrating because how long is it going to continue to go on because people insist on going out.
Right. Freddie Fry talked about in 72, I was exposed to the subway in New York City. I was on my ass for 5 days. It was an experiment with the Army Corps of Engineers to see how it would spread. My bones hurt worse than when I broke my femur. I haven't had a flu shot since then. Every flu season, my bones ache if I'm exposed to someone with bronchitis. Try and find that experiment on Google. Not talking conspiracy theories, just stating a fact. This appears very different unless it's a different strain. Let's see. Steven's in the chat. What's up, Steve? This is his post from April 15th, I swear. Oh, this is Justin talking about his friend who is in good shape, who's 39 years old. This was his post on April 15th. I swear, if I come through this thing actually able to breathe again, I'm making it my life's worth to drop kick all the idiots saying this isn't a big deal square in the chest. Because it literally feels like someone is kicking me right in the chest. There's people already not speaking to. Justin said, dude, I'm right there, dude. I've written people off left and right, man. I can't take it anymore. Madison says, I'm terrified of getting this. I stay home and in except when I need groceries or to walk my dog. My biggest fear is getting this and being hospitalized. What would happen to my dog? And dude, I feel you, man. Those are things that hurt. Like if I got sick and I had to leave this house, I don't know what the hell would happen here.
Yeah. Well, one of our things was the day. So the plan was when I went into the hospital, because again, my husband had it and he didn't have it as bad as me, but he still had some breathing issues and concerns. So the plan was when we got up that Saturday morning, I was going to go to the hospital. I was going to come home. After I came home, he was then going to go to the hospital, get checked out. And the assumption is he was going to come home. When I then had a call and say I was being admitted, then he was like, I'm not coming. And then there was kind of like this argument. I'm like, but you have to go. And of course, our concern was, you know, our boys are 17. They're older. You know, obviously they can be home alone. But that wasn't our concern. It was the fact that we now have 2 scared kids home alone, both their parents in the hospital with COVID, not knowing what the hell's going to happen. Like the emotional impact for them, you know, he's like, I can't go now. And I'm like, it's better to fuck them up emotionally now than you not going and you don't make it. I'm like, you need to freaking go. And he never ended up going. But, you know, then it turned out, I guess it was, you know, right after the fact because he didn't need the hospital at the time. And he, you know, he was then feeling better a few days later. I think the biggest hell those couple of days was just enormous stress with then me being in the hospital. You know, which was a whole nother thing. But these are the things then, again, you know, that you sit there and you think of is like, what the hell do we do? You know, everybody's like, well, send your kids to somebody's house, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, we don't know if they have it. I'm not going to possibly let them go stay, you know, with their, you know, aunt and uncle. And right. God forbid they infect everybody. And I'm like, no, I said they would have to stay home. Right. And I said, unfortunately, they're going to have to be home alone.
And that drives me crazy, too, with people, is all these people who think that they're just going to provide you with the easy answer. Well, just take your kids somewhere else. Oh, just don't stay there. Well, just don't do this. Well, you stay home because you're sick and your partner can go to work. Like, nothing is that fucking easy, dude. And if you think it is, then you've had it too easy in your life to speak up. You need to shut the fuck up right now.
So it's like those protesters, that's what I want to rely to them. That's what I want to say that you're not seeing on the news. You be in the position I was, where now you have to possibly leave both your children alone in the house. Nobody can come in. Nobody can come out. Right. And they're sitting there stressed out, worrying, are my parents ever going to come home? Are they both going to die? Like, that's the fucking reality of this.
Right. I want to take one more look at the chat here. Wait, you want people to walk with logical intent? How dare you? Go to Spring Lake or Seagirt. No masks, idiots. Dude, I'm telling you right now, dude, I live across the street from a building that's all senior citizens, and those people come and go fucking literally all day long with no masks,
Well, wait,
and they're
wait.
just
Yeah,
wandering around the parking lot.
It might make you feel better to know that the other day I did say a man coming from that building wearing a mask around his neck.
Well, that was helpful. That's helpful.
So,
That's helpful.
I mean, if that's not a
Yeah.
sign,
Yeah.
Can we get back,
It's a
get
step
back on
in
the
the right
community thing for a second? I do want to make a notable mention to the whole the Saint thing that happened with Marguerite King from Little Vicious.
Yeah. Let's get to that toward the end. I want to close out with that real at the very end.
Okay.
Let's see. Pat says, "Where's Bernie Sanders?" Bernie Sanders got screwed again, and now we're all supposed to vote for Joe Biden, which I'm just not going to do.
I have to.
Who voted for Joe Biden to be there?
That's exactly my question. I don't know one single fucking person who likes Joe Biden. I do not understand how this happened.
Here's another thing that everybody should know, because I actually did it today because I wanted to make sure I was set, that New Jersey does not have any kind of rules and what have you like other states do, but there's no rules in terms of if you want to sign up for an absentee ballot and be able to send your vote in that way. All you do is go online and there's a piece of paper, you print it out, you sign it, you send it in. So if I did it, not knowing what November is going to look like, and frankly, I don't know if I want to go out in any kind of line or anything to vote, but damn sure I want to get my vote in. So I already filled out my form. I'm going to mail it in so that way I can do my ballot that way without having to go to a polling place. So just throwing that out there for any New Jersey listeners.
for any listeners anywhere should be doing it.
Right.
I wish that it was completely online, because it's a bitch for someone whose printer just broke to figure this shit out. But
Well,
yeah, that's
you got to check online, because each state has, some states have stipulations where it's like, oh, you can only do it if you're in the military or if you're this or you're that. New Jersey has no rules. New York, they were talking today during the press conference. They do have rules. Normally, you wouldn't be able to do an absentee ballot, just because. However, they are changing now the rule in New York that they were adding language into it that if people want to do an absentee ballot, either A, because they're sick with COVID, or B, they're afraid of catching COVID and getting sick. So they put that language in there. So that way, basically, it covers everybody. And, in New York, you can also apply for an absentee ballot. So I know Pennsylvania has a lot of rules, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to be seeing more and more states add the language that New York has. So that way, more states have the opportunity to have people vote, hopefully.
Yeah.
you were talking earlier about the drug trials and stuff, and I just saw this come up a couple minutes ago. I don't know if you had seen this yet, but the World Health Organization started a global initiative to speed up the development, production, and distribution of drugs and vaccines for COVID. And the United States just released a statement to let everyone know that they will not be taking part in that. So,
No.
go
But yeah,
up.
I'm already aware. Everything, the timetable that we are supposed to follow per FDA guidelines, that is like non-existent at the moment for this, which again is understandable. Again, it was the same kind of thing when AIDS hit. I remember
Right.
that time, I was on a bunch of clinical trials at the time that, they cut a lot of red tape there. So it's going on right now in terms of drug trials. You have a lot of people that are working on vaccines to see if that'll work. They're also working on a lot of existing medications that are out there that were approved for a different indication. And now they're taking those drugs to see, I don't know if they're running trials for hydrochloroquine. I'm only using it as an example since that is something.
The remdesivir one looks promising. We're going to find out about the double blind, I think, in another 2 weeks. What the results
So it's
are.
like they're taking all these existing drugs and actually putting it through an actual trial, getting the data to see if they can, say, yes, we did test this for this indication, it does work. Right now, your hydrochloroquine and all of that, that's all off-label use. So they're simply doing it out of compassionate use to say, you know what, there's nothing else we can give you. We're trying to avoid death. What the hell, and we'll just give it to you. So that's not typical. Doctors are not supposed to be giving, drugs for off-label use.
I just want to address the chat one more time. Freddie Fry says, I don't know what this is, but it's real, and the irresponsibility I see out there is unacceptable. John is in the chat. What's going on, John? And Andy Hall said in my other chat, I can't believe it took until now to reopen the drive-ins. So
I think we're going to see more drive-ins now than movie theaters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to start...
God, how weird would it be if we started seeing drive-in porn theaters?
Oh, yeah, no. That is really not good.
No, that'd be
Well,
a
think of how
mess.
bizarre that. Well, think of it. It would be the perfect time. Nobody's on the roads. No one's seeing it from their car while they drive by.
You can't make weed legal and have it also be that you can't smoke in a movie theater without drive-in theaters as an option. Duh.
and not to mention Stones, not just make weed legal, but pull into a movie theater, a porn theater that's a drive-in, and then what? Jerk off in your own car? What are you doing? That's no plan.
Well, not in someone else's car, because then you're not social distancing.
So a couple of things. I wanted to start to wrap it up. Stones, I just wanted to make note of what you said too about the Saint in Asbury Park to just to put something positive out there. The Saint is a club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So if you're watching this and you're not from New Jersey, it is an iconic place.
But you might have seen it if you watched any of our footage from our Awesome Talk on stage, because we did them live at the Saint.
Sure, yeah, we did Awesome
The
Talk
only
live
place
twice.
that lived through the dark times. It's the only place that survived through the dark times at Asbury Park. God damn it.
Yeah, and it's the Saint. The potential of the Saint closing is like watching CBGB's close down for New Jersey. It's painful. So a lot of the art and music community, Marguerite King, who was a guest on this show a few years ago, started a GoFundMe to help save the Saint. And in a couple of days, the Saint needed $50,000 to keep their doors open. In a couple of days, the arts and music community of Asbury Park and beyond pulled together and raised over $40,000, or almost $40,000 already. We have a GoFundMe for them on our Facebook page, somewhere in the feed. If you take a look, it's definitely there. And they recently announced that because of all the efforts that people have put in, it's rescuing the club, and the club is not going to close. And our band, the Stones, used to play there. And it was just a huge part of our lives. And I really think that, if you want to save something that's amazing, they're being hit by COVID in the way that businesses are being hit by COVID. And COVID was the reason that they got fucked. So, hats off to Marguerite King for getting that GoFundMe together. I donated. A lot of people I know donated. And I hope that you guys will all go check it out.
I've literally donated like weekly at this point.
Yes, that's what I'm doing
money
today.
Comes into my door, I've been putting it into the pot over there.
Yeah, and I got to tell you something. As somebody who used to play music, and as somebody who's looking forward to doing it again, out of all the places that I've played, the vast majority of places I played in my life, and club owners and show promoters that I've dealt with, a lot of them are scumbags. There's a sparse few who were really good to us. They're good to the bands, and Scott Stamper and Meg over at the Saint were always good to us, always good to Twine, and good to Awesome Talk, and they always had an open mind about what we could bring to the stage. And I think that those places that do that for artists are unbelievably important. So again, it's in our feed. I'll end up sharing it again, I'm sure, but it's definitely worth checking out. So before we close it tonight, I'm going to close tonight with just a really short video from Erin Incoherent when she was here. But before we do that, I want to see if anybody who's still on right now has anything else that they want to say about what's going on or what we've talked about tonight. Any words that you want to use to close up with. Alexis, I want to say thank you so much for being our guest tonight and talking so openly about what happened. Is there anything that you want to say?
I know. I'm so happy that she's okay. Dude, her and my mom have put me through so much goddamn stress. I deserve a fucking vacation as soon as I'm allowed to actually leave this place ever again in my life, this bomb shelter.
Yeah.
So you guys come together with a plan, you and her, and think of where you're going to send me as my gift for putting up with both of your constant stress-inducing heart attack induced. You were like, I have to milk this to get a puppy, and I gotta get my Nintendo from Jimmy, and I'm like, I gotta milk the stress you guys put me through.
Yeah. No, I have to say, I have a few friends that are, a bit religious, and I can't tell you how many people, especially those, belonging to church where they have prayer groups going on, and I had people that didn't even know who I was praying for me. So I cannot thank my friends and family. We had a lot of friends, when I was in the hospital, and even now to this day, that still, I have somebody getting me, groceries tomorrow and dropping it off at the house, and we truly don't leave, and so we still have people that are helping us, and I just thank God, for all the prayers and the continued help constantly. I was gonna say one other thing, and I'm afraid like it'll literally start like another 5-hour conversation, but I'm just gonna say quickly, the other frustration and anger that I've had around all of this is where I live and where I live next door to of Lakewood, New Jersey.
This gets brought up on the show all the time.
You know what I have to say? Because, then looking at, the numbers for Monmouth and Ocean County, and then I was looking at, because of course I'm always looking at kind of Monmouth County, and of course you hear on Facebook, everybody's on there, with just like with numbers. But then I was looking at the counts for Ocean County, and it, was just eye-opening that, obviously Lakewood has the largest number, the greatest number, but then you look at every surrounding town, Howell, Brick, Jackson, Toms River, we all have the highest counts that there is. And it just, what just disheartens me is, you hear people on Facebook and everything, or you hear them go on the news, and it's like you're anti-Semitic and blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't give a shit if you are a town of Asian people, Black people, white people, Muslims, Hindu. I don't give a fuck what you are. It is a population of individuals, and not everybody, because there are some that basically are embarrassed and sick and tired of what's going on in their own community, and I feel bad for them. But unfortunately, obviously, there is a problem. There's been a problem from day one. They're still trying to stop weddings and everything else. And obviously their actions have affected and killed people outside of their own community. Because
we're seeing it now, even with, those church, there were so many church gatherings that we were hearing about in a lot of the Midwest areas. It seemed like, church gatherings of 1,000+ people. And now, how many weeks have gone by? You're seeing those same people, and now it's reporting the pastor was actually sick and he didn't know it, and one pastor could have potentially infected up to 1,000 fucking people. And so like these large religious gatherings, whatever denomination, are really caught. One priest came out and said something like, God will take care of you. Like, you have to come to church. Like, this is up to God to, sort of. And it's like, how fucking irresponsible. You know what I mean?
If the Pope is doing a virtual Easter fucking mass, who the hell do you think you are when the Pope isn't having anybody in?
Well, you're the guy that hasn't gotten the golden throne yet, so you still need that money rolling the fuck in. The Pope has his own country and his own army. Yeah. He's not so worried about that.
Yeah.
It's the people on the bottom that are worried about the coffers.
I'm that angry because you see that, there are people, sadly, dying in their community. And again, anybody dying from this or anything is horrific. But why is it you're more important than anybody else that you can still hold funerals and have hundreds of people there? When I tell you, I can't tell you how many people, of friends that I have that have died literally in the last 3 weeks from this, and they can't have anything. And even if they could, they're doing the responsible thing, saying, we will do something at a later date to celebrate their life. We're not going to do anything now. Or they'll do like a Zoom virtual
thing. Is it actually like like, are funeral homes just in general in any county anywhere? Are they even open? Like,
From what I understand, and I don't know if the rules, I don't want to say the rules. I believe the rules are, from what I've heard from those that have had people that passed away recently. I think the rule is there can't be more than 10 people in the funeral home, and that includes if you want a priest or whatever it is there.
so you can have an actual funeral now?
Well, they were doing
Some-
virtual stuff anyway, too,
A
though.
lot are doing virtual. Some will have, like, they go to the funeral home and it's like, just 2 or 3 people and that's that. And they're then going to do something later on, or they'll give it to a larger group. But again, they're doing virtually online. Some people are not even doing anything. My girlfriend lost her husband a week ago and he was cremated. She's having no service. And he was a huge music fan, Grateful Dead fan, loved music, wonderful guy. She's going to do a music festival for him, months later when it's safe for the family and friends. And so she did nothing. And so I don't understand why, just because you're a certain religion or whatever it is, that you feel the rules don't apply, safety doesn't apply, and you're still going to do it. And there are others that are losing people and they can't say goodbye, or the extended family can't say goodbye, or they're putting it off and waiting until it's safe. I just, again, it's one of those things that angers the shit out of me.
Well, you're seeing a lot of places being raided, basically to shut this stuff down. When we can. And it's a weird thing because, you have people, I don't know what he specifically said because I didn't see the press conference where de Blasio said something about people being able to call and report seeing large, like, gatherings of people. And after that came out, whenever that was last week, I saw a lot of my friends being like, this is fucking nuts. This is like Hitler. What the fuck is going on? Where we're going to have to snitch on our own neighbors. And it was like, I don't think that that's what this is exactly. Like, if you saw someone walk into a grocery store with a gun and they were waving it around, like, the first thing that would go through your head is that you have to alert someone that there is a dangerous situation. And I think the issue is when you see people walking around and they're sick or whatever, like, that's a loaded weapon. That's like a gun going off in every fucking direction all the time. Right. So, like, who do you call for that when the injury doesn't happen immediately, but a week later? Like, what do you do in that situation? Do you just say, like, oh, well, he's just living his life and I'll just live my life? Like, but they're intersecting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but like I said, to me, it doesn't matter what the hell race, creed, it doesn't matter. It's just still a group of individuals that are not following the rules that everybody else is following, and that it does affect other communities. People are sick, people are dying, and there's no consequences. And, we've seen time and time again, whether there has been some sort of raids or this or that, or they come in the community, but then the story dies down and you never hear, like, they get a slap on the wrist. And so there's no huge consequences. And not for nothing, the FBI came in, twice this week? Where have they been the last month?
It's a scary. I can't imagine the situation. I read an article the other day that police officers are now being now being given the choice about whether or not they want to pull someone over, and it's like the amount of
they're risking their lives.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like, I mean, could you imagine? Let's say that, like, a teenager or however old you are is like, oh, I'm gonna have a spring break gathering, we're gonna have a party, fuck all this other shit. And, like, can you imagine being the cop that has to go there to deal with that idiocy and put yourself at risk, then go home to your family and potentially put them at risk? Right. And, like, I think something like a month ago, something like 200 NYPD had died from this, and that was almost a month ago.
Yeah, They're not, you sat there and you've seen the videos too of them in New York trying to break up funerals. So there's hundreds of people out in the street, same community, trying to break up a funeral, and you see them. They don't even get out of their car, the police, and they know they're not. And they have a recording in their car that they play on the speaker that basically says, you need to break this up, you need to move. Nobody moves. They know the cops are not going to get out of their car. If I was the cops, I wouldn't get out either, because there's no respect for them whatsoever. And literally, they are dying. And it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's fucking criminal. It is criminal, and it's no different, but meanwhile, you see on Facebook, somebody on the Howell page is like, these fucking, and the cops are coming to their doors and arresting them because they're saying they're so angry. And it's like, are you kidding me? My words are not killing somebody. But them coming into our stores and us getting infected is killing people.
Right.
Where is, and again, it comes down to dollars and cents. The FBI came in to raid the masks, respirators, and everything else that they were then selling to make a profit.
Right.
So the FBI raids that, but you're not raiding the fact that there are huge gatherings, that people are getting sick and people are dying. Even their own individuals in their own town, it's not fair that, neighbors are dying because they have an asshole neighbor, but
Sure.
they can't go against them.
Well, part of the other problem too here is the enormity of the issue. Like Madison had said, the governor of New Jersey is terrified of being called anti-Semitic, so he doesn't do
not
anything.
true. I mean,
But the
Rob
truth
even
is,
called-
they
Rob
are
even
doing
called
something.
it.
There's police in Lakewood every single day breaking things up every day. I mean, we're talking about a giant community.
Yes.
The cops can't be everywhere at all times, and I'm telling you, you
Not
deploy
like
National
that, like,
Guard into Lakewood, you're opening up a whole other can of worms. Not just
But-
with Lakewood,
even
but you're
Rob
talking
talked
about MAGA hat wearing assholes see that happen, and then what fucking happens?
Well,
We're talking
Rob
about a
talked
civil
about this
war.
on the last episode, and he talked about the numbers and like, he's right, because the governor got criticized for not dealing specifically with Lakewood. And, Rob's point is like, yeah, but he's the governor. Like, there's mayors, there's like, this is not a governor's job. Maybe it's fortunate, maybe it's unfortunate, I don't know, but it's not really the governor's job to specifically go after town specific things that are happening like this. And it's being thrown on him, and it's like, it's easy to weed out people that are dressed differently than you, but how many other groups of people can you pinpoint as a problem that look more like you? The groups of people are everywhere else too, and it's like, other than statewide sort of declarations, to be able to go town by town and weed through which, Matt Colosi, who was on here earlier, and now I don't think he's here anymore, wanted to talk about, okay, well, he's been working at a grocery store, and the shit that he says he's had to experience is shocking. And like, how as a governor, how do you find that? How do you pluck that out of a bigger group? Once again, it comes down to that you have to give a shit about your community, whether you give a shit about them normally or not. I don't talk to anyone. I never really talk to my neighbors. I never leave the apartment normally, but I'm well aware of the fact that everyone else's decisions affect me, and the things that we do in our daily lives affect everyone else.
Yeah, but not for nothing, the governor is getting the reports from each district on the things that have been going on with COVID and having to break up stuff. The name Lakewood is not anything new, okay? And he knows what's going on because this happened long before COVID happened. And he's looking at all these statistics and all these reports. You literally, it sticks out like a sore thumb when you turn around and you see the numbers the way it is. And then again, if you have any clue about the state that you're in, which you should then be able to see all those numbers are hugely skewed, way larger. The surrounding towns all around one town, that not for nothing, you should have somebody to say, okay, we got a big problem here. Because guess what? Again, if you don't get a handle of that, it then keeps spreading and goes out, 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 out. So before, when New Jersey started, it was North Jersey was the problem. Bergen County, numbers were huge, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? They had on the news a couple of days ago. That's no longer a problem. The problem now, Central New Jersey. Where did it start? One town that spread all the way out all around. And that's why now Central New Jersey is the biggest problem in New Jersey.
True.
This is it's a really complicated situation. And again, you're talking about old world. And when I say old world, I mean the world from a month and a half ago. We're talking about old world politics, old world ideas. I don't know how you address this. Like, I have no idea what to do about any of this. And again, the only way that you could get an entire community under control would be to deploy something bigger than the police department.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell happens if that happens.
They had the National Guard out there, I think, for a day or two, and then you never heard anything else about it.
Yeah.
And I get you're going to have people on their soapbox that, oh, you're anti-Semitic and how dare you and blah, blah, blah. But again, when you're looking at this is the area that continues and they're not abiding by what the rest of the state is doing.
Yeah. And
people are getting sick and you're having weddings with 300 people and you're having a funeral with 500 people. Like, then yes, if I have to follow the rules, why the fuck are you better than me that you don't have to?
Sure. I mean, look,
because
listen.
You say my religion is
Sure.
Jewish or my religion's Catholic.
I asked the same question about sure, and I'm not, and you're obviously not wrong at all. I asked the same question about a lot of things. I wonder why churches don't have to pay taxes. I wonder why they're better than everybody else. I wonder why when somebody says I'm a Christian, I'm supposed to fucking go, oh, sorry, I'll watch my language around you. Like fuck you, dude. Like it's. And then at the same time, you take a group of people who believe a certain way. They've brought themselves together into one group. But you're right, but they're affecting it. It's no different than the MAGA hat assholes with the AK-47s charging their Capitol building. You know what I mean? It's just another group of people, and you go, I don't know what to do. It's like everyone's got this America sickness. Like, I have the freedom to be an asshole. Well, why do you want to be one? Like, I don't understand this, man.
Right. It's a respect thing. I mean, the one thing that I can say with the community is that they are so tight, right? Which you don't really see like that anymore. And I respect that. I could literally see somebody on the line not have enough money to pay for their groceries, and a total stranger from the community will open their pocketbook and give them the money, right? So it's like, I respect that. But what I also feel is I am on the outside and there's a total disrespect there. You are not one of us, and to screw you, right? And so that's where the problem is. We're not talking about lending somebody $1. We're talking about literally lives. People's lives, livelihood, dying, and everything else. There should be at least a common respect there to respect thy neighbor, even if you don't like them, even if you don't agree with them, even if they're not part of your community. Just like, I would not want to go in their community and God forbid somebody gets sick from me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that. And why? I guess I scratched my head. There's not that respect. I'm willing to put down beliefs, this, that, everything for total strangers to make sure that anybody is safe. And, I guess it's just, how can nobody else feel that way? It just, I don't even know what to say. I'm to the point where it's like, I don't feel comfortable living in my community anymore. I don't feel after this safe to shop in my grocery stores where I live because of all of this. So it's just.
What else I wonder and is interesting is, when you have a lot of really devout groups of people of any religion, whether we're talking about those Midwest churches that were having gatherings of 1,000+ people, or we're talking about, enclosed communities where they're not following the distancing guidelines, is that our information might be very different than their information. Whereas we're watching these news, the news every day. Not only that, but we're hearing about our families, our friends' families, and this person and that person or whatever. But the information could be very different when you are trusting of different people. You know, when you have like that priest who ended up infecting up to 1,000 people, you know, he was saying everything, it's okay, you know, you could come, everything, you know, and it's like if you trust that man that much, like you're gonna trust that it's okay. And it's not necessarily like I don't really give a fuck about you guys. It's more like I was told by someone I trust that this is safe.
You're 100% right about that.
And maybe what the key was, and
because,
I don't know if this was done, and I wasn't there, so I can't speak of it. But, you know, maybe what should have been done, or you would hope would have been done, is, you know, rather than kind of martial law like around it, is that there should have been the right leaders going into whether that community or any community that has this issue, speaking to the leaders of that company, making it very clear to say, you know, we really respect the fact that, you know, you do certain things in terms of funerals and this and that. It is extremely unsafe for your own community. People are dying. It's unsafe for the surrounding communities. And to literally ask them and to be on board to say, you now as the leaders of your community, we need you to get this message out. We need you to almost act like the police and break up if you see things.
Alexis,
holding funerals, weddings, you know, birthday parties, whatever.
Alexis, I absolutely love that idea, and I also think that you're right because I've worked with people from that community, and you know, a lot of people from that community don't know anything about what goes on outside of the. I mean, they don't know TV shows, they don't know music, they don't know news, they're taught specifically within their religion, and that is all they know. So it's a very interesting idea to extend that level of respect to their leaders and say, look, we need to have a sit down with you, and you need to understand the gravity of the situation. Right. And I wonder how that would change things. I wonder if that would bring things under control. That is a very interesting idea.
Because right now, all there is anger at this point.
Right.
You know, from all the surrounding communities, everybody's angry, everybody's frustrated. You know, now there's summonses going out. And again, you know, there's plenty of people like on Facebook that live in the community that are like, I'm not doing this. Like it's other people, you know, and they're lumped into people that aren't following the rules. And frankly, those individuals, their lives are at risk too. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they live in close quarters, or if they go to the store, like they have the risk of, you know, losing their life with all of this. And I'm sure they're not happy either. So it's like, you know, you don't want to turn around and say it's everybody. It's not everybody, but you're talking about a very large, you know, population of people in a relatively small area. You know, families tend to be in a household, you know, easily 8, 10 people, you know, so there's a lot of people that are all living under the same roof. You know, to again, we respect, you know, you have religious services on such and such a day. And here's another way you can do it. Let us show you again, online, virtually, this and that. Let's show you a safer way to do this. And, you know, I think the focus should have been that. That's no different than, you know, we're looking at New York where there's a higher death rate in minorities, in the poor areas of New York. And, you know, now they're spending all this money on campaigns to get the message out to these, you know, communities to kind of let them know, you know, then why couldn't we have done it, say, with a community like Lakewood?
You're 100% right, because you're talking about another community that's undereducated, underexposed to the rest of the world. It's exactly the same situation. Exactly the same situation, man. Listen, Diane wanted to say, continue healing, Alexis. Please come back in a few months and update us. This was excellent. So I wanted to say that she said that. Justin said, I'm pagan. Every single one of our Sabbaths are based on large groups of people gathering outside. Myself and all of my pagan, Wiccan, Satanist friends are just staying the fuck at home. Why can't people of any other faith do it without some ridiculous argument? Let's see. Jesus said, I like this show. Honest debate. Thank you very much, Jesus. Let's see. Freddie Fry says, may God bless and keep you all well. Peace. Justin says, as always, thank you to all of you. Thank you, Alexis, for putting a face to this chaos. Madison says,
That
thank you
should
for
be your
sharing.
new tagline. I put a face to the chaos.
Put a face to the chaos. Yeah, so that's that.
That should be listed right under your robot ping pong player when we play together. I put a face to the chaos.
You didn't name my ping pong player.
So
Hopefully I could give everybody an update next week on after my antibody testing, and hopefully I'll have.
And you said that the antibody test is quick, like 24 hours, or how long does it take?
It's just a blood test, and they said right now the lab is averaging about 3 days to come back with results. So, depending on how much the lab has, we'll see. Could be shorter, could be longer, but they said about 3 days.
I just want to say too that Justin just said in the chat, love that. I think it was the idea of contacting the leaders and having like a respectful sit down. I
thought he was talking about Alexis putting a face to the chaos.
Oh, a face to the chaos. Maybe that's what it was.
And virtual ping pong.
And virtual ping pong.
I'm rolling with that.
So we do have to shut it down. Alexis, anything you want to close with? Anything you want to say?
No, just other than thank you for having me. I hope that, the information I gave will help somebody and get the word out. And I'm praying everybody stays safe and healthy and appreciate all the love. So thank you.
And we will update you guys on who actually won the most games.
Yes.
The disabled, crippled girl with no good joints, or the chick who is currently in recovery from this shitty virus.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Justin responded and said that I was right about what he was talking about. It was about the virtual ping pong.
Okay. All right.
Hey, look, you've been practicing, so I haven't played yet. So, give me a little bit of a
Well,
break.
just to be fair, you can be secretly practicing right now and just telling me you haven't turned it on yet.
Right.
No, I haven't actually. I'm being honest.
Any other folks from the show want to close out with anything? Stones, Matt? Are they gone?
I don't know, man.
They're sleeping.
They might. Stones' phone might have died, and I think Matt had to check out. Sarah, do you want to finish? You want to close out anything?
I don't really have much to close out on, other than that I'm really happy that my sister is well.
Yes.
And I mean, that was dude, the last month has been like one of the most terrifying months of my fucking life, man. And I'm just so every day. It was weird because every day that she was. I mean, she's still ill, but not what it was before. Like, she could talk without choking. Every day, for a while, every time my phone would go off, I would, get a stomach ache because I was scared that it was going to be something awful about her. And then, after that passed, and she was home for a couple of days after the hospital, every time my phone go off, I didn't want to text you a lot because I was really worried that I was going to be waking you up. And I didn't want to wake you up if you had just had a bad night where you weren't sleeping well that night because of your fevers and the body aches happen at night. So I would just always wait for you to contact me most of the time. And every day I was waiting for the day that you started saying this has gone down or this didn't happen today for the first time, and that wasn't coming. And then finally one day you were like, my oxygen went up, and it was the best moment. And every day, every couple days after that, there was a new milestone that was so exciting. Oh, I can talk without choking now for a while, and it was so great. So
Yeah.
You can never get sick again as long as you're alive.
Believe me, I want to. I mean, 31 days, not pretty. And, I sit there and hear some of the people, online and doing interviews, and it's yeah, I had COVID, and I'm not, putting it down, but it was I was sick for 3 days, and I had a fever and some aches, and I'm sitting there 31 days, screw your little 3 days. I would have taken 3 days in a heartbeat. I thought I was never going to feel better, but yeah.
Well, Alexis, thank you so much for doing this tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who watched. Andy Hall also wanted to say thank you. I left that comment out to you, Alexis, for sharing tonight. And I want to thank everybody who watched tonight and shared the show and everything like that. We're going to close out with a music video by Aaron Incoherent. Just a few minutes tonight, just to close out with some music. And, stick with us. Tell everybody to watch us and like the show and like the page and all that other good stuff. So, all right. Have a good night, everybody.
everyone.
Good night, Alexis. And turn this music
Love
up.
you.
Love you.
It's called The Storm. This is also on Deja Vu. I'm Aaron Incoherent. Thank you very much for having me. This has been an awesome talk, an awesome experience. And I'm sure you hear that all the time, but it's because y'all are doing a good fucking job. Oh, they say there's a storm coming for you. Oh, they say there's a storm coming for you. And I hope you lock your door. And I hope that what they say ain't true. 'Cause if it is, boy, there's a storm coming for you. And don't you tell me no more lies, no, I want the truth. 'Cause both you and I know that I deserve the truth. 'Cause you led me on to believe for over 6 fucking weeks. But I guess loving you at all was like loving a ghost. 'Cause we take 2 steps and clearly we're going nowhere. We're just wasting all our time. We must be a sight of confusion, or maybe just a sight for sore eyes. Oh, by now I've learned a thing or two. But that's bound to happen when you got nobody else but you. So I know where I'm going when I feel that cold wind blowing. But like I said, that's 'cause by now I've learned a thing or two. Like you don't shit where you eat my fucking heart out. You'll swear you should have been warned. I thought it was common knowledge. Hell, have no fury like a woman scorned. Two, three, ow. And I hope that when the rain comes for you, you're a little too late, just a little too late to find your way back home. And away you are swept away, the hurt and the pain and the grief and the shame that you left me. On the day that you left me. But we both know it was long before then. So bring the thunder and the rain. This storm is bringing a change. And I ain't afraid for me, but boy, I swear I'm glad that I ain't you. I'm glad that I ain't you.
So I want to thank everybody again one more time for being here tonight. One more round of applause for Aaron Incoherent tonight, please. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.